Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook Library, a sanctuary of stories where fan fictions come alive, where ancient legends echo from the East and Western worlds awaken with wonder. Settle in. Your journey begins now.
Harry Potter in Marvel Chapter 31 Bold Declaration. Tony sat in his office. He heard the TV behind him and half paid attention to Rhodey speaking to the press. Pepper was standing next to him and dealing with his makeup and the plasters on his face while he read a newspaper that discussed the battle yesterday. It had a picture of the suit and the hooded man from yesterday. Iron Man, Tony said, reading the name that the paper had given him. It's kind of catchy, it's got a nice ring to it. I mean, it's not technically accurate since the suit is actually made of a gold titanium alloy, but it is nice. And Tony trailed off as Agent Coulson entered the room. Tony put the newspaper down as Coulson handed him speech cards. This is your alibi, Coulson explained. Right, Tony said as he began reading the cards. You were on your yacht. We have port papers along with sworn statements from 50 of your guests, Coulson said. You see, I was thinking that we could say it was just me and Pepper on the yacht. Tony said, only for Pepper to express her opinion of that by pulling off a plaster harder than necessary. That's what happened, Coulson said as he gestured to the cards. Just read it word for word. There's nothing about staying here, Tony pointed out. That's being covered, Coulson reassured him. He is on vacation. Small aircrafts have such a poor safety record, Coulson said with a small smile. But a bodyguard? Tony asked as he reached the part where Iron Man was apparently his bodyguard. A bodyguard? It's a bit flimsy. This isn't my first rodeo, Mr. Stark. Just stick to the official statement and soon it will all be behind you. Fine, but what about tall, dark and mysterious? Tony asked as he gestured to the pointing of Grimm. That stick of his, it was really powerful. I've never seen tech like that. Oh, I am sure you don't need to worry about him, Coulson replied. You know who he is, don't you? Tony asked, in a knowing voice. I may have some idea, Coulson nodded. He is Grimm, isn't he? Tony asked, surprising Coulson. Coulson paused before letting out a small breath. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised you know about him. I apologize, but I am not permitted to say much about him, Coulson said, and he wasn't. If it wasn't for Stain, then he wouldn't have even called Grimm to help. Who is? Tony asked, raising an eyebrow. Maybe you will find out. Coulson smirked. I am Iron Man, Harry heard Tony say on the news, and within an hour it was all over the internet. On one hand, Harry was impressed that Stark admitted it in public, but on the other hand, it was stupid and had painted a big target on his back. Harry was brought out of his thoughts by a knock on the door. Harry knew who it was. He was able to recognize who it was simply by the way she knocked. Harry walked towards the door and opened it to reveal Natasha, who was standing by his door with a bag of food in her hand. Burgers and chips, she offered. Holding the bag up, Harry stepped to the side and allowed her to enter. You could smile, you know, Natasha said as she walked in and sat on his sofa. I have had a ton of French food, by the way. When did you get back? Harry asked as he sat down next to her. Yesterday, she yawned lightly as she stretched, making sure to push her chest out. Harry rolled his eyes at that and just began opening the bag. From what I heard, you have had an interesting few days. Want to talk about it? No, Harry said before he began eating. Fury will want to talk to you though, especially about the fact that you can survive being ripped into by bullets. Yes, Harry nodded, knowing that Fury would definitely want to talk to him about the fight. Are you going to say anything beyond one-word answers? Natasha raised an eyebrow at him. Food first, Harry responded after another bite. Fair enough, Natasha shrugged. Before joining him in eating Chapter 32 The Weight of Vengeance. No. Please don't. Don't do this, he begged, his eyes pleading as he tore his eyes away from his wife and son, both of whom were on their knees with their hands tied behind their backs and their mouths gagged. Please, please don't. He cried, tears pouring out of his eyes. His wrists were chained to the wall behind him, and he was without a wand, and the only piece of clothing he had was his underwear. His family weren't better, as his son looked to be in the exact physical condition as him, and the bruises on his wife's face were not easy to miss. Are you willing to give your life up for them? Grimm asked. Looking down on the battered and beaten form of Lucius Malfoy, Narcissa and Draco were on their knees in front of him, both positioned to be looking at the Malfoy patriarch, the man who formerly used to wear the best of clothes and always stood proud with his hair descending to his shoulders. Now the only clothes he had was the underwear he had spent the last 2 days in. His hair was shaven off and his face was heavily bruised. Narcissa Malfoy, on the other hand, was wearing a large pillowcase, much like the ones that the house elves would wear. It was a choice between the pillowcase or being naked. Draco was much like his father except that he still had some hair remaining, but even that was a small amount in the middle of his head. Now please, there is no need for this, Lucius coughed, his body shaking from the cold and the torture that he had received mere moments before. No need for this. Grimm echoed. Disbelief managed to show itself even through his magically altered voice. No need for this. Grimm said a second time, his voice rising in volume. There is every need for this. Grimm snapped as he shot a cruciatous curse at Lucius. Lucius cried out in pain while the other two Malfoys cried out for him even though the gags prevented them from making much noise. Eventually Grimm stopped and Lucius was left shaking on the floor. Look at me, Grimm said at a regular volume even though the anger was still present in his voice. Look at me. Grimm commanded and Lucius forced himself to look at the man out of fear of more pain. Do you know what you have all done to me? Grimm asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You don't even know who you are, Lucius gasped out before he coughed heavily, blood spitting out of his mouth. Yes, Grimm said as he lowered his hood with his free hand to reveal his face. You do, P. Potter. Lucius blurted out in shock upon seeing the raven-haired man with blazing emerald eyes. Narcissa tried to move her head to look at him only to receive a stinging hex to the cheek, which was better than the punch that Draco got when he tried the same thing. Me, Harry said with the smallest of nods. I've lost count of all the things your family has done. Potter, Harry interrupted as he roughly grabbed Narcissa by the hair, causing the woman to gasp out in pain, tricked her sister-maid Andromeda believed that she had changed, and then stabbed her in the back before handing her over to Bellatrix. And if that wasn't enough, then there is the fact that she took part in the death of her own niece and her niece's son. She helped you with all your schemes as well. P. Potter. She was acting on orders of. And then we have little Draco. Harry let out a humorless laugh as he released her and moved over to Draco and grabbed him by his hair. Stupid little Draco would never leave me alone, because this attention-seeking little brat would throw a tantrum if he didn't get his way. Every single time. Of course it's not entirely his fault that his parents can't parent for shit, and if I remember correctly then Draco was the one who killed Teddy. He was just following orders. Please show mercy. And, mercy. He killed my godson. And you dare ask me for mercy? Harry roared as he looked at each Malfoy with pure hate. I have very few things in life that I care about, but it is clear that you and your master won't rest until you've taken them from me. Guess I am just going to have to kill you all before that happens. No. Please don't. Lucius cried. If you need money I can give you money. All of the money in my vault. Please Potter. Shut your mouth Malfoy. Harry said in an almost bored tone. Here's what's going to happen. When my godson died you and your master gave me a choice. I'm giving you a choice. You ever heard of the game? Kiss, marry, kill. In that game you are given 3 people and you have to choose which you would kiss, marry or kill. Now I have no desire to marry or kiss any of you fuckers, so we'll get rid of those, but let's keep kill. I'm going to play a simpler version of the game called Kill or Enslave. I'm still working on the name, but the game is quite fun. What? The goblins aren't happy with you, Harry said with a wicked smirk. They aren't exactly pleased with the fact that your master killed one of your own, not even a regular goblin. The goblin he killed happened to be related to the current king of goblins. Any Death Eaters they find they will either execute or enslave them. I'm sure they would see the fun in making a pampered princess. Harry gestured to Narcissa, or a spoilt brat. Harry now gestured to Draco. Work in their minds. So now Lucius, you have a choice. Harry raised his wand. No Potter please. I kill your son and enslave your wife to the goblins, Harry said as he pointed the wand behind Draco's head. Harry paused before he pointed the wand behind Narcissa's head. Or I kill your wife and enslave your son, which do you prefer? You can't make me choose. Lucius shouted. If you don't choose then there is a third option, Harry grinned. Me torturing them to death in front of you. How long do you think it will take your brat to have his mind broken from overexposure to the cruciatous curse? Think he will last longer than his mother? Of course once they are broken I will have no need for them and will just get rid of the bodies. Harry added the last part almost as an afterthought. Choose. Harry said as his wand kept moving from Draco's head to Narcissa's then back to Draco's. Choose. Harry repeated when Lucius didn't answer. I said choose, Harry said as the tip of his wand began glowing. Potter please. Lucius begged. You don't have to do this. The same way you didn't have to go after my friends and family, Harry said in a deceptively calm voice, his wand still moving between Narcissa and Draco. Choose, Potter, please. Choose. I can pay you. Choose. All the money in my vault. All of my possessions. Goblin, Harry called. A few seconds later, a goblin walked into the room. He walked past everyone and towards Lucius. He placed a quill in Lucius's hand before holding out a document for him to sign. You might want to get to signing that, Harry suggested. Lucius gulped before signing the document. He hissed as the quill was a blood quill and was writing with his own blood. Once it was signed, the goblin held out several more documents which Lucius had to sign. Once it was done, the goblin smirked at Lucius before he walked away, nodding at Harry as he did so. Now that that part is done, we can continue right where we left off. Choose. But I signed. I gave you all my money. Lucius protested. Everything I had. That was the deal. I didn't make a deal. Now choose, Harry replied. What will it take? Choose. Please. Begging didn't work for my mother or any of my family or any of the families that you were responsible for killing. Now choose. Choose. Harry shouted, magic amplifying his voice. Lucius was silent for several moments, his eyes glancing between Narcissa and Draco. Please spare my son. Lucius said eventually, looking far more pained than ever before. Lucius and Draco jumped a second later when Narcissa fell to the ground after a flash of green light. Draco cried out, even though he was gagged. Hey Draco. Harry grabbed him to stop him from moving towards his mother. Harry kneeled down and looked him in the eye. You always found it funny that I was an orphan. You laughed when you killed my godson. Tell Mace it's still funny. Harry asked. Draco didn't reply. Tears dripped down his eyes as his gray eyes were locked onto his mother's lifeless body. Guess not, Harry said before standing up. Order up, Harry called. A few seconds later, a couple of goblins came out and grabbed Draco by the arms before dragging him out. Potter, oh Lucius, I would save your breath if I was you, Harry suggested as he pulled his hood up. We're not done yet, Grim said as his wand tip began glowing. Harry's eyes snapped open as he snapped to a sitting position. He looked around and saw that he was still in his apartment, lying on the floor next to his bed. His eyes shifted from green back to gray. Harry let out a few deep breaths before he shook his head to clear his thoughts. Harry felt himself get nudged and saw Padfoot standing next to him. I'm fine, boy, Harry sighed as he patted Padfoot. Padfoot didn't totally believe him, so rested his chin on Harry's shoulder. Harry took the hint and wrapped his arms around Padfoot, giving him a small hug. I'm fine, Harry said once more before he stood up and walked to the bathroom. Chapter 33, A Night of Secrets. Okay, why the fuck am I here? Harry asked as he stood in the entrance of an amusement park with Natasha and Barton, all three wearing civilian clothes. What? Do you not enjoy our company? Natasha said with fake hurt in her voice. No, I don't enjoy your company, Harry replied, though Natasha clearly didn't believe him if the expression on her face was any indication. Again, why am I here? Harry asked. I'm on a mission and I invited you, so you accepted, Natasha replied. You didn't invite me, Harry pointed out. You came to my apartment, told me to get ready and follow you because there was something important you needed to do. That's what I just said. Natasha shrugged. I was given orders to have at least 2 people for my backup and I have chosen you too. And I am beyond honored, Harry said sarcastically. You might as well just a mission in disguise, make the best of it, Clint suggested. I mean, at least can enjoy a night out, Clint said as he gestured to the park. I would have preferred to spend the night at my place like I usually do. Stop being so grumpy, Natasha rolled her eyes. You just might enjoy yourself. When was the last time you've been to an amusement park? She asked curiously. Never, Harry answered. Wow, really? Clint asked in a surprised voice. What have you been doing all of your life? Avoiding contact with people until I was old enough to get laid, Harry answered. After that I got laid, Harry said in a matter-of-fact voice. That's pretty much it. Well, today you are going to have some fun. Maybe we can even make you smile, Natasha said in a hopeful voice. Is it too late for me to just go back home? Harry asked Clint, who sent him an apologetic look as he patted him on the shoulder. Far too late, Clint nodded as he spoke in a sympathetic voice. Fine, Harry sighed before he looked between Clint and Natasha. Fair warning to both of you that tonight will not end in a threesome. No objections there, Clint snorted in amusement. What about a one-on-one? Natasha said. making a show out of fluttering her eyebrows at him. "Shut your face mouth," Harry said as he covered her face with his hand. He removed it a second later to show her pouting at him. Half an hour later and Harry was still in the park with Natasha and Clint. Apparently she was spying on a guy called Adrian Redwood who happened to be here tonight. Thankfully Clint and Harry had even better eyesight than her and that allowed them to keep a distance and reduce the risk of getting spotted. However, since they were at the park, Natasha insisted that they act like they were here to enjoy themselves. For Harry that was easier said than done. Everything about the park made him uneasy. Too many people, loud noises and plenty of chances for something to go wrong. Admittedly, he did enjoy the few rides he had been on, but they honestly were rather tame when compared to going full speed on a broom or in his animagus form. "Hey," Barton nudged his shoulder before gesturing to the game stalls. "Want to have some fun?" he asked with a grin. Harry immediately picked up on what Barton was saying. "Lead on," Harry said. Barton's grin got ever so slightly bigger and he walked to one of the stalls with Natasha and Harry following behind. "Either of you want this one?" Barton asked as he gestured to a stall where the player would have to shoot duck-shaped targets with a gun. "I'll try it," Natasha smiled before she paid for a few shots. A couple of shots later and Natasha had won herself a small bracelet. Clint had taken the next stall, which involved sliding a small disc into a specific colored circle on a platform full of them. He had ended up winning himself a small toy sword, which he took without the slightest bit of embarrassment. Harry had originally opted out of playing in any of the stalls since none of the prizes interested him, but Clint and Natasha insisted he try at least one, which was how Harry ended up winning a fluffy dog toy after throwing 6 hoops and having them land perfectly on top of bottles. "Show off," Clint laughed as he gave Harry a playful nudge. "I think I might just give it to my dog," Harry said when the trio sat down at a table to eat, each taking turns to glance at their target, who was eating in a store opposite them. He was eating pizza with an excessive amount of chips and sauce. "How did your meeting with Fury go?" Natasha asked. "Well, we're both alive," Harry shrugged. "So it could have been worse. Fury wasn't really happy that people had caught me on video. Well, not my face or anything, but they saw me fight Ironmonger along with Tony Stark, or Iron Man as he is apparently called." "Hold on." Clint raised a hand to signal him to stop. "Did you just call him Ironmonger?" "That's what he is called apparently. Or it's what Coulson is calling him. I didn't ask why," Harry replied. "Anyway, Fury was mostly just interested in how I could survive all those bullets." "How could you?" "Because you definitely got shot." Natasha frowned. "I remember seeing blood coming out of you from the videos." "Yeah, and what the hell is up with that stick of yours?" Barton asked. Harry paused as he thought up an answer. Fury already knew about his powers, or at least a few of them, so he didn't really have to worry about the two telling Fury anything that he didn't already know. Plus, it could make things easier as Harry had been partnered with Clint and Natasha on a few missions already, and it could make things easier for future missions. Harry's wand appeared in his hand and he discreetly cast some privacy charms while keeping it under the table. "Fine," Harry said with a small sigh. "But this is high-level shield stuff. Only Fury, Coulson and he'll know so far. Which means if anyone else finds out, then we're in big trouble." Clint nodded. "The surviving bullets is just part of my advanced healing," Harry replied. "As for the stick, as you called it, it's my wand." Chapter 34, A Journey to Remember. "Your wand?" Clint echoed after glancing at the target. "Yeah, I'm a wizard," Harry said as he showed them his wand. "My abilities are magical." "Pay up." Clint smirked to Natasha as he held out his hand. Natasha rolled her eyes before handing him a few dollars. "Of course you fuckers betted on it," Harry said, resisting the urge to also roll his eyes. "Anyway, magic, what can you do?" Natasha asked. "Near anything," Harry answered. "It's how I actually make a lot of my money. I make stuff, then I sell it." "Could you make money?" Clint asked. "I could, but it's not really something I do because it's really just simpler to wave my hand and make a chair than it is to make a note and make sure it looks like proper money," Harry replied. "Are there any others like you?" Natasha asked after glancing back to make sure their target was still there. "No, I'm one of a kind," Harry answered. "How do you know?" "Just trust me on it," Harry said right before he took a sip out of a fizzy drink can. Harry looked in the target's direction and looked back towards Clint and Natasha after confirming that the target was still there. Harry also just didn't want to look at the man eat. His table manners were worse than Ron Weasley. Harry was currently in his apartment doing push-ups with Padfoot resting on top of his back. He was interrupted by a knock on the door. He paused after finishing his representative and glanced towards the door. "Harry, Natasha's voice called. It's me. Woof. Padfoot barked after a second of sniffing, confirming to Harry that it was indeed her. Harry shifted to one hand as his wand appeared in his right hand. He flicked it and the door became unlocked. The wand disappeared and Harry continued his push-ups while Padfoot jumped off him and walked towards the door before opening it by touching a pair of runes with his nose. Thankfully he was magical enough for the runes to work. Hi. Natasha smiled to Padfoot as she entered and closed the door. Padfoot rubbed his head against her leg and earned himself some petting. Natasha's eyes left Padfoot and she looked towards Harry who was doing his push-ups. It didn't escape her attention that he was currently shirtless and only wearing a pair of white tracksuit bottoms. Natasha gave him a theatrical wolf whistle. Looking nice, she said before she walked in and sat on his sofa. Can I help you? Harry asked. A short while later, after finishing his push-ups, he got up and waved his wand around himself, getting rid of any sweat and bad smells. Well, Natasha said, ignoring the temptation to comment on his casual use of magic. Just came to talk, she said while giving him a look over, greatly enjoying the free show she was getting. Is that why you've put extra care into your hair? Harry asked right before he was suddenly wearing a gray shirt. Pardon? Natasha blinked, missing his question due to a combination of being disappointed at him covering him up and jealous that he could make clothes whenever he wanted, plus a bit of amazement at the fact that he could make clothes whenever he wanted. Your hair. You've put more effort into it than you usually do, Harry replied. Glad you could tell. Does my hair interest you? She asked in a teasing tone. I will get a hose, Harry said with a hint of warning. Spoilsport. She pouted for a second before her face returned to normal. I have got an assignment, okay, Harry said, waiting for her to continue. It involves Stark, Natasha said. I wanted to know if you were interested in doing it with me. When you say it, you are talking about the assignment, right? Harry raised an eyebrow. If you want, she smirked. Well, I will have to refuse either way, Harry replied. I have something I plan to do and I will be away for a couple of months. Oh, what would that be? She asked curiously. Something personal, Harry replied, his voice letting her know that he wasn't going to say any more about it than that. Fair enough, but feel free to talk to me if you ever want to, she said with a smile. Thanks, Harry said after holding back the first comment that came to his mind. Fury's been notified that I am leaving, so unless the world gets attacked by aliens or something, then don't call me. Fine, can I at least know when you are going? She asked. Tomorrow, Harry answered. And when were you going to tell me this? She raised an eyebrow. Tomorrow via text, Harry replied. So, want to go somewhere to eat or order a takeout or something? Natasha offered. Takeout's fine with me, Harry shrugged and sat down next to her as she took out her phone. What about Padfoot? Natasha asked. He's coming with me, Harry said as Padfoot barked in agreement. Well, he'll miss you, Natasha said. Thanks, but I was talking to Padfoot, she interrupted. She smirked at him when he glared at her. Padfoot's barking didn't help. Harry arrived at his destination, a beach in France. Not just any beach though, in another world, in another time. Fleur Delacour would live here. She would live here in a small beach house with her daughter, Victoire Weasley, or Vicky as he liked to call her. It pained Harry, looking at the spot where her house used to be, only to see nothing but sand. No longer would a beautiful white house be standing there, visible from the blue seas. No longer would it add life to the plain-looking beach. Harry looked around. Padfoot was standing next to him, but there was nobody else on the beach. The skies were gray. A light rain showered over everywhere. The temptation to roar was high, but Harry stopped himself just in time to place privacy wards and spells in case anyone happened to come by and see him. Harry's eyes closed as various things came into his mind. An image of Bill Weasley on the floor with scars on his face and blood pouring out his neck, a near broken, mentally and emotionally broken Fleur Delacour crying at his funeral. Young Vicky not understanding where her father was. One memory that arrived in Harry's head was a month after Bill's death. Harry remembered arriving at the house. Fleur had opened the door. She gasped when she saw him covered in blood. That was the day that Harry had avenged Bill's death. When she found out what he had done, she hugged him so hard that she nearly finished him off. Harry remembered the week after Bill's funeral when he spent a day with a young Vicky who didn't know how to cope with her father's death. Chapter 35 Echoes of Loss. One memory that arrived in Harry's head was a month after Bill's death. Harry remembered arriving at the house. Fleur had opened the door. She gasped when she saw him covered in blood. That was the day that Harry had avenged Bill's death. When she found out what he had done, she hugged him so hard that she nearly finished him off. Harry remembered the week after Bill's funeral when he spent a day with a young Vicky who didn't know how to cope with her father's death. "Mum's sad because Daddy is dead," Vicky sniffed as she sat in her bed while Harry sat in a chair next to her. Small tears dripped down her blue eyes. "She said that he has gone to heaven. Has he really gone to heaven?" she asked. "I would bet a lot of money that he has," Harry said with a small smile as his left hand rubbed circles on her back. "I miss him," Vicky admitted. "Why did he have to die?" "It's complicated." Harry sighed as he ran a hand through his black hair. "William Smart, I can understand," she said, her eyes begging him to tell her more. When I was a year old, my parents had to go," Harry began explaining as best as he could. They died too. Miss them. I barely knew them, but I missed them. I still do, but I know that I will see them again soon." "But you haven't seen them again," she frowned. "Not in person," Harry admitted. "And not yet, but I will see them again. You will see your dad again, eventually, but you have to wait until the time is right." "When?" "That's not a question I can answer," Harry said sadly, "but I do need you to do something for me." "What?" she asked curiously, blinking through the tears. "Your mother misses your father," Harry said as he wiped the tears away with his other hand. "No matter how much she pretends she doesn't. She misses your father. I want you to look after her. Give her a hug every day. Give her a kiss and let her know that you love her. You need to look after your mother. That doesn't mean you can't have fun, but remember that you two need to look after each other. Can you do that?" "To think so," she nodded eventually. "Good," Harry said, giving her a proud smile. "And if you ever need any help, then you call me and I'll come right over. You got it?" "Got it." Vicky nodded again. "Good. Now it's time to go sleep. Do you want a story?" Harry asked. "Yes, please," Vicky said as she lay down and rested her head on her pillow as she looked at him. "Sure thing, sweetie," Harry said as he wandlessly summoned a book from a bookshelf. "Show off," she said with a small laugh. "Oi!" Harry protested with a light but quick poke to the stomach, causing her to giggle. "Now let me read the story," Harry said. A short while later the story was done and Vicky was blinking as she tried to fight against sleep. "All right, time to go sleep now," Harry said as he put the book away. "I'll see you later, okay?" Harry said as he stood up. "Love you, Unca Harry," Vicky managed to say after a rather long yawn. Fortunately, Harry was able to easily understand her sweet talk. "I love you too. Give Uncle Harry a kiss." Harry leaned his head down and allowed her to kiss his cheek. He gave her a kiss on the forehead in return. "Good night." Harry smiled before he walked out of her room. Turning the light off on the way out, Harry let out a deep sigh before he walked towards Fleur's room. He knocked twice before he called her name. The only response was a small cry. Harry gently and slowly opened the door to find Fleur sitting on the floor, her back leaning against her bed, her knees to her chest and a picture in her hand. Harry couldn't help but notice the empty bottle of alcohol left on the desk. Harry walked in and knelt down next to her, her breath confirming where the alcohol had gone. "Fleur," Harry said in the softest voice he could. Fleur too don't really know what to say. "To miss him," Fleur sniffed, looking like she could cry no longer. Black pillows under her eyes with her hair carelessly left to hang down to her shoulders. "I miss him so much. Why this stupid war? Why did it take my husband? When will it end? Two don't have all the answers. I am sorry, but I don't," Harry said, feeling pain to admit what he had just said. "I wish I could tell you that it will all be alright, that a year, a month, a week, a day later the war will end, but I can't say it and mean it. If you need to hear it, then I will stop telling the truth and tell you that everything will turn out great. But I can't tell you that with 100% honesty you will recover. You are strong. I can just remind you why you need to recover." "Why?" Fleur asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "What reason do I have?" "You have your daughter. Bill's daughter," Harry said, his emerald green eyes locked onto hers. "She's the best of both of you and you need to live for each other. I am here as long as you both need me. Take some time. Mourn and grieve, but for God's sake remember that you still have Vicky. This war is horrible. This world is horrible. Everywhere I go I smell blood and hear tears and see the world turn to shit. I can't stop the stink and the cries, but I can help people. Fleur, if you don't live on, then you let them win. If you don't live and look after Vicky, then that is just another family gone. You've lost your husband. Don't let them take your life and family as well," Harry said. Fleur didn't respond. She just stayed silent. Harry snaked one arm around her waist and the other hooked under her legs. He lifted her up and placed her on her bed. He waved his wand over her to clean her up before he changed her clothes into sleeping clothes. He then tucked her into bed. I won't let them take my family. Fleur spoke in a soft yet determined voice. That's the Fleur I know. Harry smiled at her. I'm going now. If you or Vicky need me, then just call. Thank you, Ari. Harry let out a large roar that would have traveled very far along the beach if not for his charms. Once he was done, Padfoot let out a small whine before he howled. Harry sighed and let out a deep breath followed by a few short ones before he looked at Padfoot. 5 minutes, might as well make the most of it. Harry said before the tattoo on his left arm glowed the silver, wispy and transparent forms of Bill, Fleur and Victoire Weasley. Harry, Ari. Bill and Fleur cried out happily, followed by a short cry of, Uncle Harry. From Vicky. Hey guys. Harry said with a watery smile. It's good to see you guys. How are you all doing? We're great, well, as great as the dead can be. Bill smirked. We've missed you so much, Ari. Fleur smiled with Vicky nodding in agreement. What have you been doing? I'm a consultant for a government department. Harry said. That was honest enough in his opinion, consultant. Fleur gave him a knowing look. I'm good at what I am good at. Harry shrugged. Ari, I wish you didn't have to do that anymore. I do other things as well. Harry said dismissively. Anyway, enough talking about that. Fine. Fleur rolled her eyes. But tell me, you are still not using that same outfit from before. What the hell is wrong with it? Harry asked in a defensive voice. Harry found himself walking through a small village in Nepal. He had just brought himself an apple from a local market when he suddenly felt someone following him. Judging by the subtle shift in Padfoot's body, he had also noticed. Harry continued walking. Not showing any sign that he had noticed, Harry turned left around a corner and into a small alleyway. Once he was sure that nobody was looking, he teleported to the top of the roof of the building he was next to. Harry looked down into the crowds to try and find whoever was tailing him. Padfoot sitting next to him, and suddenly his ears were raised upwards. Harry turned around with Padfoot a second behind him. Padfoot looked prepared to fight while Harry's wand was in his hand and aimed at the person standing a few meters away. Who the hell are you? Harry asked in a calm voice. Relax, a female voice responded as the owner of the voice lowered her orange hood to reveal a Caucasian woman with a bald head. I am not here to harm you, either of you, she said with a small smile. Chapter 36, The Ancient One. Can you please lower your... The woman trailed off as she looked at what exactly was in Harry's hand. Wand? She asked in a soft voice as she held her hands up to show she wasn't armed. Why should I? Harry asked, noting how her expression only held the slightest bit of disbelief along with a hint of amusement. Because I am asking nicely. I mean no harm to you or your companion, she said as she gestured to Padfoot. Harry, who wasn't nearly as trusting as he was when he was a kid, tried to read her mind. However, he found himself very surprised when there were mental defenses. It was the first time in years he had come across them. Naughty, she tutted disapprovingly. It's quite rude to read a person's mind without permission. Harry withdrew from her mind. He wasn't sure if he could get past her defenses but decided it wasn't worth trying. What do you want? Harry asked, grip on his wand tightening slightly. I merely wish to talk to you, she replied. We are in fact standing on my building. She gestured to the roof they were standing on. I would like to invite you inside. I give you my word that I will not attempt to harm you or your friend and that you can both leave whenever you like, she said with a small smile. If this is a trap, then I will crush your skull, Harry warned. I will consider myself warned, she nodded. May I know your name? She asked. Neville. Harry fibbed. A nice name. Now may I know your real one? She asked with an amused smile. You first, Harry insisted. I go by many names, but you may call me the Ancient One, she replied. A nice name. Now may I know your real one? Harry asked, his face blank apart from an incredibly small upward curve of his lip. I'm afraid not, she chuckled. So I suppose Neville will have to do. Will you come inside with me? She asked. Padfoot nudged Harry's leg. Harry glanced at his faithful companion before looking back at the Ancient One. Fine, Harry said. He lowered his wand but kept it in his hand. The Ancient One smiled before Harry and Padfoot found themselves inside the building. The Ancient One was in a chair while Harry was standing in front of a chair with Padfoot next to him. She was a little surprised that he hadn't fallen into the chair like most people would. She was momentarily distracted by the growling coming from Padfoot. Thanks to that, she found a wand pointed at her face with the tip glowing in a threatening green light. Do not do that again, Harry growled. I apologize, she said apologetically. realizing that theatricality may not be the best option right now. I promise I will not do that again. I was simply hoping to save us both time, she said, hoping not to upset him while she believed that she would probably win in a fight. She did not know all of his capabilities and didn't think it worth potentially destroying the building or hurting herself. After all, she could feel the power coming from him. She couldn't help but wonder how powerful he would be if trained in the mystic arts. Harry looked at her and she felt as if he was staring into her soul and assessing her. Harry waved his wand several times over the chair before he sat down with Padfoot sitting next to him. She gave him a questioning look. Constant vigilance. Harry shrugged in response. I understand, however I truly do wish to simply talk to you, she said. So, Neville, what are you doing here? I was just walking around before I met you, Harry replied. So you were not intending to come to Kamar Taj? She asked, looking mildly surprised. Kamar Taj. I suppose that I am currently in Kamar Taj. Then, Harry guessed. You are correct. Many come here, searching for one thing or another. Why have you come here? I was planning to pay respects to the dead before you decided to bother me, Harry replied before he suddenly waved his wand over her. You're not magical. Harry frowned. No, I am not. She shook her head. Yet you can do magic. Yes, though I do not believe in the same way as you, she replied. I harness different types of energies to manipulate one or more aspects of the infinite realities that are present within the multiverse. It is a bit complicated to explain. Would you like some tea? She asked as a cup of tea appeared in her hand. Chapter 37 The Mysterious Armor of Kamar Taj. I can make my own drink, Harry said as he waved his wand and a mug of butterbeer appeared. He took a sip before he gestured her to continue. Impressive, the Ancient One commented. Now as a sorceress I am able to harness various energies. The three main ones are personal energies, universal energies and dimensional energies. Each different energy allows me different abilities. For example, personal energy from my own life force allows me to do things such as astral projection, telekinesis and telepathy. It is rather limited in comparison to others. Universal energy, energy from this very dimension, allows other abilities such as creating energy weapons. Finally, there is dimensional energy, which quite simply allows me to harness power from other dimensions. You have caught my interest because the energy I detect in you is a combination of all three. It seems connected to your body and this dimension, yet I feel it originates from another dimension. I can see that you come from another dimension, do you not? I don't see how that is any of your business. Harry narrowed his eyes at her. I have another title, she said in a calm but powerful voice. I am the Sorcerer Supreme. I protect this dimension and reality from all mystical threats and dangers, including those from over dimensions. Are you a danger? Everybody and everything is a danger. Off the top of my head I can think of 5 ways to kill a person with that cup in your hands, Harry replied, but I don't actively go out and seek to spill my blood with the innocent. If that is what you mean, I came to this world by accident. Oh, and how did that happen? Experiment gone wrong, Harry said, slightly quicker than he intended to. I've been on this world for years. I have only hurt people in self-defense until recently. I now work with the government. Let me guess, they send you out to get rid of messes? She asked. Disapproval in her voice. She would have said more but was interrupted by a growl from Padfoot. I am not a weapon that they can target at any and everyone they want. Harry's voice was lower than before. He knew what she was thinking. He didn't need mind reading to know that she thought he allowed himself to be an attack dog that they could use and discard whenever they want. I don't just kill, and when I do kill I do my own research. Harry tapped the side of his head and the Ancient One's eyes widened slightly in realization. I don't hurt the innocent. And I do not work for them. I work with them. I refuse any jobs I don't want and they can't do anything about that. Why work for them? Why not say hidden? She asked. My reasons are my own, Harry said in a firm tone. I am afraid that The Ancient One was cut off as a black-skinned man wearing green robes burst into the room. Mordo. The Ancient One asked. What are you? We have a problem. The man, apparently called Mordo, said quickly. The armor. It's awake. The armor has awoken. Mordo nearly shouted out the last part. That is impossible. The Ancient One's face briefly looked worried before she got up and followed Mordo out. Harry and Padfoot looked at each other. After a couple of seconds of silence and an unspoken, fuck it, they both stood up and followed after Mordo and the Ancient One. The two followed Mordo and the Ancient One into another room. In the room there was a variety of objects. Some looked perfectly normal. But Harry could tell it was all magical. With this many magical artifacts, it was hard not to feel the magic in the air. When Harry and Padfoot stopped, it was to see the Ancient One and Mordo standing in a fighting stance, a holographic-looking orange circle in each of their hands. Harry was tempted to ask about it but realized that now was not the time, as they had to deal with the elephant in the room, which in this case was a suit of armor trying to break out of a glass case. The suit in question was a beautifully designed gray armor that covered everything from foot to shoulders. Connected to the shoulders was a black cloak that went down to the back of the thighs. The arms were black but the shoulders were covered by a piece of armor connecting to the body armor, while the forearms and upper hands were covered by gray gauntlets that matched the armor. On the middle of the chest was a small gray symbol, a lighter gray than the rest of the armor. The symbol was of a bird spreading its wings. The symbol was also on each of the arm gauntlets. The hood from the cloak was up, and the gray face mask, which was designed to hide the lower half of the face, floated in place inside the empty hole of the hood. It was rather odd to see the suit standing on its own, since it was not being supported or held up by anything. The suit was repeatedly striking the glass case. Its eyeless gaze was on Harry as it kept attacking the case. It has never reacted like this before, the Ancient One said to herself as she frowned. Deep in thought, she glanced back to Harry before she looked at the suit. She sighed before she stood up straight and got rid of the orange circles. Mordo, stand down, she ordered. Are you crazy? Mordo blurted out with pure disbelief just as a crack appeared in the glass. No more so than usual, she said in an almost Dumbledore-like manner. She looked towards Harry. I know you don't trust me yet, but I would advise staying still, she said before she waved her hand and the case opened. Padfoot growled but kept still when Harry placed a hand on his head. The suit walked out of the case and towards Harry. It stopped in front of him. It was slightly taller than him, so it looked down at him. Harry would have looked it in the eye if it had eyes. For now he settled into looking at where the eyes were supposed to be. Harry stared at the suit, and the suit stared back. Several minutes passed but nobody had moved. Eventually the suit bowed its head. In front of everyone it decreased in size and changed so it was an exact fit for Harry's body. It stood up straight and suddenly stood like a soldier would stand when waiting for an order. Can I just say fuck? Harry said eventually. It seems that you have made a new friend. The Ancient One smirked, looking really happy about this for some reason. Shut up and tell me what the hell this is, Harry said impatiently as he gestured to the armor. If you want an honest answer, then I am afraid that I do not know, the Ancient One admitted. I know it's a suit of armor and that it is magical, but that is all. It's never reacted this way before. In the past, anyone who attempted to wear it usually found themselves hurt. Bullshit. You have to know more than that. Chapter 38, Destiny's Tattoo. Bullshit. You have to know more than that. The oldest mention I have found about it only mentioned that it would chose its owner. The Ancient One replied. I do find it odd that it chose you. Hundreds of people, since before I had even stepped into this building for the first time, have tried it on only to be rejected, yet you are here and it actively tried to reach you and had judged you worthy. Just great. Harry rolled his eyes. And what the hell am I supposed to do with it? Anything. Nothing. It's entirely up to you, she replied. What happens if I don't wear it? Harry asked. Matter of fact, what happens if I do wear it? I do not know, the Ancient One said in an honest voice. I truly do not know much about the armor, but I can research it. It will take me some time though. I can contact you when I am done. So at first you're asking if I am an insane murderer, and now you're telling me to just go take your suit. Harry looked at her with disbelief. It's not my suit, she said with a small laugh. It is yours now, and you are letting me take it. Why? The only thing my last master had said to me about the suit was, if somebody is ever able to take the suit, then do not get in their way unless you are sure that you can kill them, but if somebody is ever chosen by the suit, then let them take it and trust they know what they are doing, the Ancient One responded. I will simply have to trust that you know what you are doing. You are mad, you realize that, right? Harry asked as he raised an eyebrow. I am mad. I suppose I am. Would you say that you are not? She asked. I would say I am not mad. Wouldn't believe it though, Harry said before he looked at the suit. Great. Now I've got to hide a suit of armor, Harry said. More to himself, the armor reacted to his words and raised its right hand. It touched Harry's chest before it disappeared. Once it was gone, Harry felt a tingling sensation in his chest. Oh, you have got to be kidding me, Harry said as his eyes widened. He pulled his shirt down and saw the symbol of the armor tattooed to the center of his chest. Great. Like I didn't have enough tattoos. Harry sighed before closing his eyes. He took a deep breath and mentally counted to 20 before he breathed out. All right. Not that this hasn't been great, but I have hit my limit and I have things to do. I understand, I will contact you when I have finished my research into the armor. The Ancient One said, shall I have Mordo escort you out? She asked. No, Harry said after a glance at Mordo who looked like he was trying not to gape. I can do it myself. Harry waved his wand and a small piece of paper appeared. The paper floated into the hands of the Ancient One. That's my email and number. Use one of those because I promise that I will shoot first and ask questions later if I find any evidence that any of you have tried to magically get into my apartment. Very well. The Ancient One nodded. Before you leave, I would like to ask if you would be interested in becoming a student here. A student? Yes. Your magic intrigues me and I would like to learn more about it. In return, I am willing to teach you my brand of magic. Does that offer interest you? She asked. I will think about it, Harry said. The Ancient One seemed to realize that this was the best that she would get for the moment, so she gave him a glad smile. Thank you. Please feel free to visit in the future. Yay, well, goodbye now. Come on, Padfoot, Harry said as he walked out with Padfoot following him. You are just going to let him take it? Mordo hissed to the Ancient One once Harry was gone. We do not know what he or the armor is capable of. No, we do not. The Ancient One said in a thoughtful voice as she looked in the direction where Harry had left. Woof. Padfoot barked a few minutes after they had Kamar Taj. You said it. Harry snorted. A few well-placed spells were probably the only reason that people didn't pay attention to him talking to his dog. Woof. Yeah. Definitely. Harry nodded in agreement. Still, it's just my luck that I not only got another tattoo but also an ancient suit of armor though. With the way my luck goes, I suppose it could have been worse still. Maybe Fleur will be happy I finally changed my look. Chapter 39 Ascension. Fuck. Harry yawned as he sat down on his sofa after getting back into his apartment. I am tired, Harry told Padfoot. Padfoot softly barked in agreement before he stretched and hopped onto the sofa. He yawned before lying down and placing his head on Harry's lap. Harry, who understood the unspoken request, placed a hand on Padfoot's head and began stroking him behind the ear. Woof. Padfoot gave a small bark. I'll contact S.H.I.E.L.D. tomorrow, Harry said as he rubbed his eyes with his free hand. But for today we are going to watch TV, eat some nice food, then go to sleep, Harry said before he turned the TV on. When the TV was turned on, Harry checked the news channel and found it mentioning something about Stark and some killer robots. Well, at least we have proof that not everything happens to me, Harry shrugged. Woof. Padfoot barked. Fine. I'll send Nat a text later to see if she is alright. Woof. You only like her because she pets you, Harry scoffed. The next morning Harry heard somebody knock on the door. He looked at Padfoot, who sniffed before barking. Harry sighed before he got up and walked towards the door. He opened it to reveal his landlady, aka Alexis's mother. Yes, Miss Smith? Harry asked in a respectful tone. Is there a problem? I am pretty sure I already paid my rent. No, there is no problem. I just wanted to let you know that there is a going away party happening later today as the Jackson family are moving out, Miss Smith replied. I was wondering if you would like to come. Everyone in the building is invited. No thank you. Harry shook his head. Why not? She frowned. I have barely spoken to them since I arrived here. Also, I have just come back from a long trip, Harry pointed out. Besides, I am a busy man and I do have to go to work tomorrow. Are you sure that I have to go to work? Yes, I am. I mean, are you sure that you are not coming to the party? Alexis and everyone else will be there, she added as if it was supposed to be something that would change his mind. Very sure, Harry said, hoping that she wasn't trying to set him up with her daughter. He had more than enough of mothers trying to do that. If that is all, then goodbye, Miss Smith. I don't want to seem rude, but I am tired and I would like to rest before work tomorrow. See you later. Harry gave her a nod before he closed the door and let out a deep sigh. He walked forward and shook his head before he made himself breakfast. After breakfast and cleaning his plates, Harry watched TV for a while to unwind. A couple of hours later, Harry got up and turned the TV off before he stopped in the middle of his apartment. Harry's wand appeared in his hand and he waved it to create a full-length mirror. Let's check this suit out, Harry said with Padfoot barking in agreement as if responding to his thoughts. The suit suddenly appeared and Harry found himself wearing it with the mask on and the hood up. He looked into the mirror and saw that it was a perfect fit for him. Surprisingly, it was so light that Harry felt like he wasn't wearing anything. It felt like a second skin. Harry rolled his shoulders and threw a few punches and kicks in the air to test how much his movement was restricted. To his delight, it did not restrict him at all. Woof. Padfoot barked. Yeah. Harry nodded before blinking in surprise at how his voice was altered already without the use of a spell. Cool. Harry said. I wonder what else this thing can do. In response to his words, Harry found himself lifted up into the air. Whoa. Harry blurted out in a surprised voice. Woof. A shocked Padfoot barked. Yeah. Harry laughed as he hovered in the air. Harry knew how to fly outside of using a broom or animagus form. Voldemort had known a spell that allowed him to fly, but Harry preferred not to use it as it was slower when compared to his other methods of flying, plus it wasted more energy. However, as he was hovering, he didn't feel any drain on his energy. Harry shook his head and thought about his desire to slowly descend down. A second later, his feet were back on the floor. Wow. Harry laughed again. I've got to go for a test flight later. Woof. Padfoot barked. Chapter 40 Unexpected Abilities. I don't know if you can come, Harry said in an apologetic voice. Padfoot let out a disappointed whine. Yeah. Sorry, bud, Harry said before he looked at the mirror. He willed the suit off of himself. It responded to his desire and separated from him and is now standing next to him. Harry willed himself to look unimpressed. Can you understand me? Harry asked. The suit nodded. Great, you respond to my thoughts. It nodded once more. And you are powered by magic? Harry asked, earning another nod. You let me fly, is that all you can do? Harry asked. The suit shook its head or hood since it didn't really have a head. Before it closed its right fist, 3 blade popped out of his right hand. The middle blade was slightly longer than the other two. The suit closed its left hand and allowed identical blades to pop out of the hand. Then 3 blades came out of the side of his right forearm before another 3 popped out of his left forearm. Neat, Harry commented with Padfoot barking in agreement. The suit retracted the blades. It then raised its right hand and touched its chest. It pulled and a sword came out of the chest. The sword disappeared a second later as the suit did the same thing again, except that this time it brought out a small knife. You can create weapons. Harry blinked. The suit nodded in response. I am not trying to sound unimpressed or anything, but is there anything else you can do? The suit nodded. Woof. Padfoot barked as he nudged Harry's leg. What he said, Harry said as he gestured to Padfoot. What can you do? Harry said to the suit. The suit took the knife and stabbed itself, but the knife broke instead of piercing through. Stay still, Harry said as he aimed his wand at the suit's chest. Harry shot a cutting curse at the center of the suit's chest only for nothing to happen. Wow. Wait, you don't feel pain, do you? Harry asked. The suit shook its hood in the negative and Harry relaxed. Great. I'm sorry I keep asking, but is that all there is you can do? The suit shook its hood to say no. What then? The suit raised its hand and tapped Harry's head. Suddenly all the knowledge of the suit's capabilities flooded into Harry's mind. Harry stumbled back slightly before he shook his head to clear it. Padfoot gave him a concerned look, but Harry waved him off and looked at the suit. You know, we could have saved a lot of time if we did that earlier, Harry commented. Harry would have said more if not for the fact that the doorbell rang. Padfoot barked just as the suit disappeared and returned to being a tattoo on Harry's chest. Padfoot barked once again after smelling the air and recognizing the scent of the visitor. Come in, Nat, Harry said as he waved his wand to open the door. The door opened to reveal Natasha, who walked in while wearing trainers, jeans, a shirt and a jacket. Her clothes were more centered around being comfortable than making her look good. Didn't change the fact that she still looked good. In her right hand was a pizza box. Hey, she said with a small smile. You haven't started lunch yet? She asked as she closed the door. Not yet. Harry shook his head. You look hungry, Harry noted. I'm still tired from dealing with Stark. And what's up with the mirror? She asked as she walked over and placed the box on the table. Harry blinked before he looked back and saw that he hadn't got rid of the mirror yet. Oh, that, Harry said as he waved his wand and got rid of it. What were you doing with a full-length mirror? Admiring yourself, Natasha asked in a jokey tone as she sat down and opened the box. Oh yeah, I was naked a few seconds ago, Harry replied as he sat down next to her and took a slice. Really? Natasha asked, looking very amused. How naked? She asked as she took her own slice. Tarzan without the loincloth, Harry said before taking a bite. Oh, and I missed it, she said with a mock pout. Yeah, I was practicing my lap dancing before you came, Harry said after swallowing, hoping for a raise at the strip club. Natasha said as she began eating. Yeah, no longer will the other strippers steal all the good customers, Harry joked. Can I ask you kind of a weird question? Go on. Do the carpets match the drapes? Do yours. You first. Natasha insisted. No, you, why me? It's my apartment. It's my pizza. Not anymore, Harry said as he picked up the pizza box. Hey. Natasha protested as she tried to grab it, but he quickly got off the sofa and out of reach. My pizza. Harry grinned before he saw Padfoot look at him. Our pizza. Harry amended with Padfoot nodding in agreement. You had better give me the pizza back before I hurt you, she said in a half-serious voice. Harry rolled his eyes before he returned to his seat and placed the pizza back on the table. He took one slice out and tossed it to Padfoot, who caught it in his mouth. Man-child. Natasha said under her breath. I heard that, Harry replied. Now if we have moved on from carpets and drapes. For now. Natasha shrugged. Maybe one day I can find out, she said in a very suggestive voice. She was about to say more but was cut off by Harry shoving a pizza into her mouth. She pouted, which didn't really have the same effect as usual since she had a pizza in her mouth. Chapter 41 Mysterious Hammer. Harry had woken the next day and had just finished breakfast. After Nat had left, he had spent the whole of yesterday testing out the suit's flight ability. He avoided being seen thanks to the suit's ability to turn itself and the user invisible. Not that it was really needed since Harry could already go invisible, but he used the suit's invisibility and found it was like his invisibility from the cloak. However, Harry's testing showed that unlike the cloak, it only hid the user from a person's eyes and nothing else. After testing it for several hours, Harry realized that the suit's top speed was around 300 miles an hour when flying, but if Harry poured his own magic into it, then it could increase in speed. How much it would increase would depend on how much magic Harry poured in. One thing that interested Harry was the, for lack of a better term, rage feature. With a sufficient amount of anger and magical power, Harry would gain a temporary increase in magical and physical strength, speed, etc. However, if he was facing someone who was still stronger, then the suit would allow him to temporarily match the strength of anyone who he was facing. The usual problem with that was that it was very draining and could cause physical damage to the average person. However, Harry had a few unique advantages. Thanks to a few rituals, Harry was already physically superior to the average person, so the risk of injury was reduced. But when you add in Harry's healing ability, which included the ability to regain stamina, then that meant that if Harry was ever forced to use the rage mode, then he would likely not need more than a few minutes rest afterwards. Harry was brought out of his thoughts by the ringing of a phone. Harry quickly realized it was his own, since it seemed like nobody else had broken in. Harry answered the call and pressed the phone against his ear. Mr. Potter. Agent Coulson's voice spoke. I am told that you have come back from your vacation. If it's not a bother, then I would like your help with something. Something big? Harry asked, raising an eyebrow even though there was no way that Coulson could see it. It's A084. Coulson replied. Harry mentally translated that to mean object of unknown origin. We're not entirely sure yet, but I am leaning towards it being big. Coulson replied. It is weird. Your level of weird, if you understand what I mean. I do. Harry said after a moment. It didn't take a genius to realize that he meant that whatever it is could be magical. I am sending you my coordinates, Coulson said. Come by as soon as you are able to, please. Casual clothes, Coulson added, meaning Harry didn't really need to wear his grim costume. I'll be there as soon as I can, Harry replied before the call ended. Well, boy, Harry said to Padfoot, looks like I have got to go to work. You be good, Harry added before he stood up. His sleeping clothes changed and he was now dressed in black boots, trousers, a gray shirt and a black jacket. Harry checked his phone and saw that he had received the coordinates. A second later he had teleported away. Coulson, Harry said in the form of a greeting as he shook Coulson's hand. Harry was currently in New Mexico and standing in what was apparently called a crater investigation site. Mr. Potter, Coulson nodded before he gestured him to follow. I'm glad you have come here. In all honesty, I am not entirely sure how helpful you will be, but I think this might be something you might know about. Is whatever we're talking about dangerous? Harry asked. Nor at least I don't think so. Coulson shook his head. But you might disagree. Look, can we just cut the games and can you just tell me exactly what this thing is? Harry rolled his eyes. It's a hammer, Coulson answered. A hammer? Harry drawled. You called me all the way to New Mexico. It took you like 6 seconds to get here, Coulson protested. For a hammer? Harry asked, ignoring Coulson's words. You did not set up this massive and heavily guarded facility just for a hammer. The same way you didn't call me over here just for a hammer. Cut to the chase. What makes it special? You mean other than it falling out of the sky during a massive storm and the weird energy readings we are getting from it? We can't move it. What the hell do you mean you can't move it? Is there like a bomb attached to it or something? Or do you mean that you physically can't move it? Harry asked in a curious voice. We physically can't move it. We've tried everything from picking it up with our hand to forklifts. Before we arrived there were some civilians who were trying to move it with their vehicles. A pickup truck got damaged trying to pull it. Coulson replied. Okay. You have my interest. Harry nodded. Potter. Coulson. A voice said. Harry and Coulson saw Barton walking alongside them. He was wearing the exact same clothing as Harry except he also had a pair of fingerless gloves. Barton. Harry nodded in greeting. You're here as well. Guard duty and security for the most part. Clint nodded. Here we are, gentlemen. Coulson said as they arrived in the middle of the facility, and Harry saw the reason. The entire facility was built on top of a stump in the ground was a hammer. It had a brown handle with a brown strap at the end along with white circles running up the handle. The head of the hammer was large and gray. Harry saw what looked like runes inscribed in it. Well? Coulson asked Harry. Harry walked towards the hammer and began walking around it. His wand was in his hand as he cast detection spells. Coulson. Harry said eventually. Yeah. Can I just say something? Just one thing. Okay. Good. Harry smiled before he looked at the hammer. The fuck? Chapter 42 The Unyielding Mjolnir. Harry looked at the hammer. He felt a bit odd having a staring contest with something that had no eyes, especially since it was just a hammer, but this was not just a simple hammer. The magical energy coming from it was strong and powerful. Some of it seemed newer than the rest, but it was strong. The triangle symbol that briefly appeared after one of the scanning spells interested Harry, as did the runic designs around the edges of the hammer. Harry didn't really know if this was part of this world. After all, this world didn't have the same history as his own. The odd thing was that Harry had a good guess about what it was. If he was right, then this could be Mjolnir, the weapon of Thor, the god of thunder. Harry had read about him in the Potter family grimoire back in his own world. The Potter family had an affinity for lightning and were rumored to have been related to Thor. With that being said, Harry wasn't sure if he was actually related to the Thor of his old world, or if his old world even had a Thor. Even if it did, that didn't necessarily mean that he was related to this world's Thor. If he even did exist, but the hammer in front of him plus all of Harry's previous life experiences meant that Harry wasn't going to discount any possibility. What can you tell me about it? Coulson asked after a few minutes of silence. All I have are a couple of facts and some guesses. Harry replied. That's better than nothing. Coulson replied. I'm all ears. He said before he gestured him to speak. All right, fine. Well, this is definitely magical. Powerful magic. Harry responded. I don't know what it's made of, but I can do some tests on it, though I reckon it will be something very strong. Harry waved his wand and the triquetra symbol appeared on the side of the hammerhead one more time. You see that symbol? The triangle one? Harry asked as he pointed to the symbol that had started fading away. Yeah. What about it? Coulson asked as he looked at the fading symbol. It's interesting because that symbol has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's been used by Celts, Christians and a bunch of others. Harry responded. It has different meanings depending on where it came from. The hammer itself is really old. How old? Barton asked as he looked at the hammer. I can't give you a 100% accurate answer. The best I can say is incredibly. Harry replied. Most of the magic is quite old as well, but that symbol is new. Harry said as he pointed at the triangle symbol again. Less than a week old for sure. Harry added once it had finished fading. Is it dangerous? Coulson asked. Not unless somebody throws it at you. Fat chance of that so far. Barton replied. Nobody can lift it. I think I know why. Harry said as he ran a hand through his white hair. Magic can be used in a lot of ways. This magic is different from mine, but from what I can tell so far, the hammer has to be lifted by either a specific person or with a specific set of conditions. What kind of conditions? Coulson frowned. All right. Well, for example, there is blood magic that can stop anyone outside of people who have certain blood. For example, if I took Barton's bow and used blood magic to make sure that only someone with Barton's blood could lift it, then nobody but Barton and maybe his children or parents could lift it. Quick question, why don't you just do that whenever you want? Barton asked. Besides the blood loss, because blood magic is one of the more dangerous pieces of magic and only an idiot fucks around with it more than necessary. Harry responded before he walked up to the two and stopped in front of Coulson and Barton before he turned to face the hammer. Clint. Coulson. Harry said as he raised his wand. Do me a favor. Go and get anyone who is not cleared to know about me away from here so I can run some tests. You sure we can't stay here? Coulson asked. Well, you can. I can create some shields to protect you, but I am planning to use some flashy magic, so get anyone who is not allowed to know away. Harry said. I can wait. Once you're done, then you and Barton can come back and I can put some protective shields up. On it. Coulson nodded. Give me a few minutes. He added before walking off. Hey Harry, Clint said. Level with me, are there going to be flashy explosions? Possibly. Harry nodded. I'll start off light, then go from there. Your shields will hold up right. Of course, Harry said, looking offended that Barton doubted the quality of his shields. A couple of hours later and Harry was still standing in the same spot. The hammer was unbroken and seemed to be taunting him since he wasn't yet able to break it. Harry had started with a simple bullet, then a trio of explosive bullets, but the hammer did not seem damaged at all. After that, Harry started using his wand. Harry started with a small powered cutting curse followed by a high powered cutting curse, then a piercing curse. All were about as effective as wet tissue. Harry then started using different spells such as blasting and explosive spells with various degrees of power. The stump that the hammer was perched on was a pile of rubble and the hammer was now on the floor, but it was still undamaged. Harry was tempted to use some higher level spells but figured that there was no need to risk damaging the entire facility. Harry lowered the shields he placed around the area and gestured Barton and Coulson to come closer. The two cautiously walked forwards and stopped next to Harry. Swaz not broken then? Barton noted. Apparently not. Unless all of our eyes aren't working. Harry panted. I could transfigure it, but I don't know how well that would go, Harry said as he wiped some sweat off of his forehead. What? Coulson raised an eyebrow. Basically transform the metal into something else. Harry explained. The problem is that hammer is magical and I don't know if it can be transfigured or how it would react to being transfigured, so here is what I suggest. Leave the hammer alone for now unless it does something weird. I'm going to go take a break. I'll be back in half an hour to continue testing. You also might want to start researching Mjolnir and Thor. I'm sorry, Mjolnir and Thor. Just a feeling. Harry replied. I'll be back in half an hour after some rest and food. Keep monitoring the energy, and if it even changes a bit, I don't care how much, then you immediately contact me. If something happens, then you contact me first unless somebody is dying. Actually, even if somebody is dying. Got it? Got it. Coulson nodded. Good. Excuse me, Harry said before he teleported back home. Chapter 43 Thor's Trial. 30 minutes later, Harry had arrived back at the facility. It was raining heavily outside. The sound of thunder could be heard as well. Harry was instantly put on alert and went to find Coulson. Mr. Potter, Coulson said as he saw Harry. What happened to contact me? Harry asked in an annoyed voice as he followed Coulson into the room with a lot of computers and equipment that were monitoring Mjolnir. There is a massive electromagnetic surge coming from the hammer, Coulson replied. Our systems are barely working. I spent the last few minutes trying to contact you. What is he doing in here? Jasper Sitwell, high-level SHIELD agent, asked Harry. Was simply an enhanced as far as Jasper and the majority of SHIELD knew. Some may have worked out he was Grim, but only the big three. Barton and Natasha had official confirmation. He's working with us on this, Coulson said quickly before turning to Harry. This started recently, he said as he pointed to the rising numbers. How recently? Harry asked. Roughly 13 minutes ago, Coulson replied. He was about to say more when a SHIELD agent contacted him on the radio. Sir, we have a perimeter breach. An agent is down. Wait, Harry said when Coulson was about to answer. Tell them not to engage. What? Coulson blinked. Are you crazy? Yes, but that's not the point, Harry replied. Do not engage. Tell your men to stand down. If I'm wrong, then I will handle it, but if I am right, then we may just have found the owner of that hammer. Coulson looked like he was about to ask another question but stopped as he realized what Harry meant. Yeah, exactly. I am going to go check on the hammer, Harry said before he walked out of the room. Harry made himself invisible before he teleported next to the hammer. Harry waited for a few minutes. Eventually someone came for the hammer. The person was about 6'3". He had shoulder-length blonde hair and blue eyes, a small beard, brown trousers and a blue t-shirt that helped show off his muscles. He was what Harry would call annoyingly good looking. As of the moment he looked confused, more than likely at the lack of resistance. Harry waved his wand to check for magic on the person. He found some that was similar to the hammer, yet it seemed depressed. as if it was being held down. The man's face lit up with a bright smile when he saw the hammer. His pace quickened and he stopped next to it. He confidently placed a hand on the handle. Harry leaned forward slightly with anticipation. The man pulled on the hammer, expecting to pick it up easily. But it didn't. The hammer didn't even shift. The man's face shifted from confident and happy to confused with a hint of scared. The man placed his other hand on the handle as well. He pulled but gained nothing beyond the same result from his previous attempt. He pulled again. Effort evident from the look on his face. He continued pulling, growling in frustration and anger as his body protested. Rain poured down on him, but he didn't seem to care. He continued pulling but was still unable to move it. Harry looked around and noticed Coulson along with several other agents were watching, including Barton, all interested in the results, but the man did not appear to notice as his focus was entirely on the hammer. Eventually he stopped, realizing that he could not lift either. Raised his head and roared, bellowing at the sky. Before he fell to his knees, Harry glanced up and saw Coulson ordering his men to move in. As the men began handcuffing the man, Harry kneeled down in front of him and was about to read his mind when he caught him looking at the hammer in an odd way. Harry looked towards the hammer and saw the symbol was once again evident. He quickly looked back and read the man's mind. Harry managed to restrain himself before he let out a noise. The man was taken away by the SHIELD agents, but Harry stayed and looked at the hammer. His hand gravitated towards the handle. His fingertips were an inch from touching the handle when he stopped. "Harry," a voice whispered into his ear. "I am incredibly disappointed in you." Harry grunted before he shook his head and let out a deep breath. He gave the hammer one last look before he walked away. Harry glanced at Thor's retreating form. Harry felt sympathetic for him. It was hard not to see a little of himself in Thor. "Coulson," Harry said once he and Coulson were alone. "What have your men done to him?" "Nothing yet," Coulson admitted. "Good," Harry nodded. After he had finished his little show, "I had read his mind," Harry said. Coulson along with Fury and Hill were probably the only people who know that he could read minds. Admittedly, Fury was incredibly concerned about that, along with being a bit pissed that Harry didn't use the ability the way he wanted. And Coulson raised an eyebrow. "You have just captured Thor, the god of thunder," Harry said in a serious voice, hoping to convey how serious the situation was with his tone. "How sure are you?" Coulson frowned. "Maybe he just believes that he is Thor. Trust me, if it was simply a matter of belief, then I would be able to skip past that. He is genuine," Harry said. "Except he is a lot less god and has lost his thunder." "What do you mean?" "It's complicated, but long story short is that his father, yes, Odin, had banished him here and he lost his powers. He was hoping to regain them by getting his hammer. Unfortunately for him, his father had other plans. The symbol on the hammer, the triangle one." Coulson asked. "Yeah, he recognized it. It's apparently his father's doing. Odin took his powers before he banished him. The hammer can only be lifted by somebody who is worthy. Find someone worthy to lift the hammer and have them lift the hammer. And if they do happen to lift the hammer," Coulson raised an eyebrow, "they would get the power of Thor." Harry shrugged. "Though since everyone here works for the government, I doubt we'd find anyone worthy." Harry couldn't help but add, "What do you suggest we do?" Coulson asked, ignoring his last comment. "Let him go," Harry answered. "What?" "It's possible someone might come for him," Harry said. "Also, I'll talk to him later. He'd probably prefer it if he is somewhere other than here. Besides, he seems like the kind of guy you would want on your side." "Are you trying to recruit him?" Coulson asked with a curious look. "No, I just think it's better if we try carrot over stick," Harry responded. "On your first mission with SHIELD you killed 100 people, but this guy comes along and you are going carrot over stick," Coulson said with a disbelieving look. "I have my reasons," Harry said. "Let him go," Harry added before he walked out the room. Chapter 44 Echoes of the Past. Potter. Lucius Malfoy coughed, blood falling out of his mouth. "Hey Lucy," Harry said in a calm voice as he looked at Malfoy. Lucius was still chained to the wall. His underwear was stinking and only an air purification spell centered around Harry stopped him from experiencing how much Malfoy had various bruises and cuts all over his now pale and sickly body. His hair was thin and dirty and reached down to his neck from the top of his head. "Why you killed my wife in front of me? You took my son and gave him to the blasted goblins," Lucius cried, tears pouring from his eyes and stinging the cuts on his face. "You tortured me," his voice broke. What more?" Lucius screamed. "Just a little," Harry said before he clicked his fingers. Two men in black robes and black plain masks dragged in a person. The person, like Lucius, wore no clothes besides his underwear. His hands were replaced by stumps and a brown bag was over his face. The men harshly threw him on the floor. They nodded to Harry before leaving. Recognize him? Harry asked before he removed the bag. D. Draco. Lucius blurted with a horrified gasp. He coughed violently before he threw up. Once he had managed to gain a tiny bit of control over his stomach, he looked at his son. Draco no longer had any hair on his head, including his eyebrows. On his forehead was a lightning-shaped scar that looked like it was cut on by a knife. Blood poured out of his mouth. His gray eyes barely held any life in them, making him look like he was one step away from being broken beyond repair. The goblins weren't very happy with him, Harry admitted as he kneeled down and flicked Draco on the nose. But Draco didn't react. Apparently he wasn't a good worker. He also might have tried to attack a goblin during a fit of rage. They may or may not have chopped his hands off for that. I know you think I am a monster, Lucius. But remember that I am doing this to you after you harmed me and my family. Unlike you, I don't go about doing these things to helpless muggles who have never done anything to me. Padfoot. Harry called before he whistled. A second later, Lucius saw a big black dog walk in and stop next to Potter. It rubbed its head against the head of his master. Lucius could not help but think. Grim. When he saw the dog. 2. Shut it, Lucy. Harry cut him off before he stood up. He forced Draco into a kneeling position. Harry pulled out a knife and held it against Draco's neck. Here's what is going to happen, Lucius. You are going to die now, and your son is going to watch you die. The same way I had to watch my godson and his mother die. While you die, you can take comfort in the fact that your son is going to join you. No. Lucius weakly protested before coughing more. As far as last words go, not bad. Harry cut him off. I was going to have my dog rip you to pieces, but you stink and I like him too much for that. I was going to go for a simple killing curse, but then I remembered what you purebloods value above all else: blood. A simple blood boiling spell should do. Harry said before he pulled his wand out and hit Lucius with a blood boiling curse. Lucius's eyes widened. His blood began slowly increasing in heat and showed no sign of stopping. 5 minutes later, Lucius died. 10 seconds later, Draco joined him. Harry was currently invisible and perched on a building. His eyes were locked onto the building that Thor was staying in. Thor was with 3 other. Harry knew their names from the limited amount of mind reading he had done. The man was apparently called Eric Selvig, while the black-haired woman was called Darcy Lewis. The brown-haired woman went by Jane Foster. Harry was deep in thought. He wanted to speak to Thor, but the question was how he should do it. Should he wear his new suit? Maybe, but that could risk Thor thinking he was an enemy. While Thor was currently powerless, Harry saw no need to make things harder for him. There was also the question of how much information he should reveal. Harry was pulled out of his thoughts when somebody started calling him. Harry answered using his earpiece. What is it? Harry asked. There has been a huge energy spike, Coulson's voice said. It went up and disappeared in the blink of an eye 50 miles northwest from the facility. When? Harry asked. About a minute ago, Coulson answered. We are heading to investigate. The energy spike is similar to the one when that hammer arrived. Alright, listen up. I have Thor in my eyeline. Whatever this is could be coming in his direction. I will stay here for now. You guys go investigate. You see anything that looks remotely important, then you call me. Got it? Coulson replied before the call ended. A few minutes later, Harry saw 4 people walk in the direction of the building that Thor was staying. One was a jolly-looking man with a long hair and beard and an axe. His armor was made of a brown and gold tunic and pants. Over his chest he wore a 2-part metal vest. The top part had various swirling designs and the bottom was made of overlapping gold plates that made room for his considerable stomach. There was also an Asian man with a frown on his face. He wore a dark blue jumpsuit with a hood. Over that he wore a black and silver metal vest. His sleeves and waist were covered in silver studs. He wore minimalistic arm bracers with a knife sheath and also wore silver boots that were black with gold fronts. The third man was a blonde-haired man with a goatee. He wore green pants and had dark black boots. There was a dark green cape attached at the shoulders by large spiked silver plating. The shoulder pads continued over his upper chest and ended in a green shirt that split in the middle, making an upside-down V shape on his chest, revealing horizontally overlapping gold plates. The fourth and final member of the group was the only femelesh, was a beautiful woman with black hair in a ponytail. She wore dark gray pants and black boots. Her armor consisted of a collared red mini dress over chain mail and was covered with silver plating. The silver plating was in the shape of a deep scoop shirt with her upper chest covered by silver chain mail. It also was in the form of a belt and shoulder pads. Her right upper arm had a silver bracelet and her left arm had a red band around it. Her hands and lower arms were covered by red fabric and her arms had arm bracers. In her left hand was a shield and Harry could see a sword handle sticking out. Harry recognized them. They were the friends that Thor had brought with him when he went to attack the frost giants. Harry waved his wand and cast a detection spell. His spell tested positive for magic. Harry placed his fingers on his earpiece. Coulson, Harry said. Yeah. Coulson's voice asked. Where are you? Harry asked. We're at the area where we got the energy reading. We've got what looks like a symbol burned into the ground. Make sure to take a picture. Anyway, I've got 4 people here with similar magical signatures to Thor. I'm going to go say hello. I'm going to bust out a new look, so don't be surprised if you get back and see a good-looking wizard dressed in gray with a mask, hood and cloak. Harry said before he ended the call. Harry was soon covered in his new suit. As soon as his mask and hood were up, he flew upwards and descended down before he landed a short distance away from them. His cloak, which was brilliantly able to increase and decrease in length, increased to the point where it covered all of him from his shoulders to his feet. Anyone who looked at him would see a body wrapped in a black cloak, connected to a hood with a mask inside the hood along with a pair of green eyes. The civilians nearby seemed smart enough. As they had begun moving away, the 4 stopped and looked at him. Who are you? Grimm asked. His voice altered by his mask. True, he already knew, but there was no point in letting them know that yet. The 4 looked at each other before the bearded one with the axe spoke. Chapter 45. The Arrival of the Destroyer. This is Lady Sif. He gestured to the woman. I am Volstagg. The blonde one is Fandral and the other is Hogan. We are the Warriors 3. He finished as he gestured to himself and the other 2 men. And who are you? He asked. I am Grimm. Grimm answered. Yes, we can see that. The blonde, apparently called Fandral, said in a slightly jokey tone. What is your business here? Grimm asked. Battle against the Destroyer. We are searching for a friend. Lady Sif spoke. You mean Thor? Yes, she smiled brightly. You know where he is, my friends. A happy and surprised voice cried out as Thor exited the building. He's right there, Grimm said without looking back. He stepped to the side and nodded to them, signaling that they could pass. The Asian man called Hogan nodded to him along with Lady Sif before following after the other 2 who had already begun running towards Thor. Grimm. Coulson's called on Grimm's earpiece. We've got a situation. What kind? Grimm whispered as he glanced towards Thor, who was hugging the new arrivals. He then looked in the opposite direction and saw a large and very unnatural cloud a short distance away from the town. A giant killer robot kind. Coulson answered. Silver-colored. Not sure what metal it's made of. Big as well. Plus it looks like there is nothing inside it. It arrived, took out our vehicles with some kind of blast and is heading towards you. I estimate you have a couple of minutes before it arrives. Fuck. Grimm cursed. Contact all the SHIELD agents in the area and have them evacuate the people. I'm going to go deal with Thor and his friends, then the robot. If it even is a robot. Grimm cursed once more before his cloak decreased so it now ended behind his thighs. Thor and his friends, both old and new, stopped what they were doing to look at him. Who are you? Thor asked. I am the guy who convinced SHIELD to let you go, Grimm replied. You can call me Grimm. Grimm. Darcy blinked at the choice in name. No time. Apparently there is something dangerous coming here. Dangerous? Lady Sif asked. A giant metal robot apparently, Grimm replied. Giant metal? Thor trailed off before his eyes widened. The Destroyer. It's called the Destroyer. Great. Grimm said under his breath before he looked at Jane and the others. You guys need to get out of here. Evacuate and help everyone else get out. I will help, Thor said. Thor's going to fight with us. Volstagg said happily. No, he is not. Grimm replied. No, he is right, Thor said when it looked like his friends were going to protest. I am mortal now. I will simply slow you down or get you killed, but I can help get the people out. That's smart. Grimm nodded approvingly. The rest of you do the same and get out of here. We will stay here and fight, Lady Sif said as she gestured to herself and the Warriors 3. Grimm looked at them. He was tempted to say no, but these were Asgardians and were tougher than the average human, plus if whatever came was Asgardian then they would probably be very helpful. Fine. Grimm said before he turned around and saw the very subject of their discussion walking towards them, a large metal robot about 13 feet tall. Its shoulders were covered with spikes. It looked like it was made out of strips of metal. Is that the Destroyer? Grimm asked the others. Unfortunately, Lady Sif nodded as she and the warriors three took a fighting stance while Thor and the others began helping with evacuating the civilians. Let's destroy it then, Grimm said as his wand appeared in his hand. That is your weapon. Fandral gave him a disbelieving look. One of them, Grimm nodded before he began walking towards the destroyer. The others exchanged looks before they followed him. Grimm raised his wand and fired an explosive spell at the destroyer. The spell impacted against the destroyer's chest. However, it didn't do much beyond slowing it down slightly. Grimm teleported behind it and quickly tried to change the metal into something else. After Grimm had fought Stain, he had kicked himself for not remembering to try transfiguration. Unfortunately, Grimm's spell didn't work. It appeared that either the metal or the spells on the destroyer prevented him from changing it. The destroyer seemed to have noticed Grimm because it turned around and faced him. Its faceplate opened and an orange-yellow blast shot out. Grimm dodged and cast several more explosive spells, only for them to be equally as effective as the previous spells. The destroyer fired again, but Grimm dodged out of the way. He waved his wand and a green fog enveloped the destroyer. Once he was done with that, he teleported back and landed back by Sif and the warriors three. Grimm flicked his wand and shot a spell that caused the gas to explode with the destroyer still in it. When the flames died down, the destroyer was standing tall and undamaged. Nice try, Fandral said as he patted Grimm on the shoulder. How about you let us have a try? He suggested before he and the other three walked towards it. Keep it distracted, Grimm heard Sif said to the others before she walked away from the other three. Hogan and Fandral rushed ahead of Volstagg before stopping. The two then gestured Volstagg towards them. Volstagg ran towards them. He then jumped past them with the other two pushing him to increase his speed. For Asgard, Volstagg yelled as he flew towards the destroyer. Unfortunately for him, he was backhanded out of the air and crash landed onto the back of a car. So, Grimm said as he stopped alongside Fandral and Hogan, it's called the Destroyer. Yet your plan was to throw a fat man at it. Grimm didn't wait for their response as he saw the destroyer getting closer to Volstagg. Its faceplate opened and it was preparing to fire. Grimm aimed his wand and was about to cast a spell when he saw Sif drop down onto the destroyer's back. She slammed her weapon through it. Her weapon must have possessed the ability to increase its size as it had gone through the destroyer's neck and into the ground below. Lady Sif gave a smug yet pleased smile to the others. Her smile did not last long as the destroyer's body shifted. Its arms, legs and head rotated so it was now facing Sif. Its blast began powering up and it was preparing to fire. Fortunately, Lady Sif was able to get out of the way in time by jumping off of it. The destroyer rose, the blade leaving its body. Grimm quickly jumped into action and turned the ground under it into mud and allowed it to sink down until it was knee-deep in mud. Grimm levitated the car that Volstagg had just got off of and raised it above the destroyer. He waited until Sif was safely out of the way before he slammed it hard down onto the destroyer's head. Thank you, Sif said as she stopped next to him. Chapter 46. Facing the destroyer. Unless it has actually been destroyed, I would wait before thanking me, Grimm responded just as the car exploded. A quick shield from Grimm prevented it from hitting himself or his new allies. The destroyer began climbing out of the mud. As soon as it was out, Grimm flicked his wand and sent the mud up the destroyer, a lot of it ending up between his metal plates. A quick spell and the mud was hardened, slowing the destroyer down. Unfortunately, it was not by as much as Grimm would have preferred since it was still able to easily walk towards them. Grimm aimed his wand at it and let out a large flame of fire. Not fiendfire, but close enough. While he was capable of using fiendfire and controlling it, he was still reluctant to use it when other people were around. The destroyer disappeared from view as it was engulfed in flames. 10 seconds later, the flames were cut off, but instead of a completely burnt destroyer, there was an undamaged destroyer. An A for effort, Volstagg commented, hoping to make Grimm feel better for his lack of destroyed destroyer. Shut it, Grimm said before anyone could say anything else. I'm going to keep it distracted and work out how to stop it. You four help the others get out of her, then go. You can't fight it by yourself, Sif protested. I've fought bigger and more dangerous than that, Grimm replied. It won't kill me. We are fighters, Sif said. We will not run. Fine. Don't blame me if you die, Grimm said as he walked forwards and cast several blasting and explosive spells. The destroyer was slowed down and occasionally pushed back by the spells, but still remained mostly undamaged. It fired a blast at Grimm, who put up a shield. His shield barely held against the force of the blast. While he kept the shield up, the others ran past him and towards the destroyer only to get blasted away and crash through different buildings. Grimm flicked his wand and sent a swarm of bats to distract it. The tip of Grimm's wand lit up as the bats began circling around the destroyer. A small blue light built up on the tip of his wand. Once the bats were all dealt with, Grim aimed his wand at the destroyer and sent a fierce blast of lightning. The destroyer was pushed backwards and eventually was knocked off of its feet and landed on its back. Grim didn't let up on the lightning and kept it going for a short while longer. After Grim stopped shooting lightning, the destroyer easily stood up. Barely even slowed down by Grim's efforts, it quickly fired a blast at Grim, who shielded but this time was knocked to the ground. The destroyer then fired at the others, who all flew back due to the blasts but were fortunately not killed by them. Grim looked at the destroyer. He was midway through thinking up a plan to destroy the thing and considering trying fiendfire when he noticed someone coming behind him. He looked back to see Thor walking towards him. "What are you doing?" Grim hissed. "Get back. It's all right," Thor said in a calm voice. "It will be all right," he said as he walked past Grim but was stopped when Grim grabbed his wrist. "What are you doing?" "Ending this," Thor said as he pulled his wrist out of Grim's grip. "Trust me, I know what I am doing. Keep the others back. Get my friends away. I don't want them getting hurt," Thor said, looking at the destroyer the whole time he walked forwards and towards it. Grim felt ready to protest, but there was something about Thor's words that made him listen. Perhaps it was the way he said it, but Grim found himself teleporting to Sif and teleporting her a short distance away from the destroyer before doing the same with the others. "What are you doing?" Sif hissed when she saw Thor walking to the destroyer. "He said he wanted you guys out of the way." "Wait here," Grim said before turning himself invisible and teleported next to Thor, who was standing in front of the destroyer. "So take mine and end this," he heard Thor say to the destroyer. It turned, and for a moment it looked like it was about to walk away when suddenly it turned and raised its hand to backhand Thor. Grim quickly became visible as he pushed Thor out of the way and blocked the backhand with a shield. The faceplate opened up and it looked like it was about to fire again but was beaten by Grim, who hit it with a high-powered blast and sent it into a building. That was ending it. Grim growled at Thor, who was getting back to his feet. "You have to stop," Thor said. "Let him kill me." "Why?" "Because if he does, then he will spare the others," Thor said, his voice still calm. "That's what is important now. If he kills me, then everyone else will be saved. It's me he wants. You'd sacrifice your life for them?" Grim asked as he gestured to where Thor's friends were standing. "Yes," Thor said without hesitation. "Stupid Gryffindor," Grim said under his breath as he shook his head, not caring how hypocritical he sounded. Any further response was cut off by the destroyer climbing out of the building he was thrown into. Grim took a step forward and was about to throw a spell when he heard a sound. This sound was not something you would hear on a normal day. Grim turned around and saw something shooting out of the sky and heading towards them. Grim narrowed his eyes and realized what it was. "Yes!" Thor cried out happily when he saw the Mjolnir flying towards him. He raised his hand in the air and caught it. Lightning shot down from the sky as soon as it had reached Thor's hand. Thor was covered in the lightning and disappeared from view. Several seconds later, Mjolnir shot out from the light and hit the destroyer in the head. It flew back and hit it again, knocking the destroyer down to the ground. It flew into Thor's hand just as the lightning disappeared. Thor stood in a collared blue tunic with red piping and black pants over the blue shirt. He wore a black vest emblazoned with silver overlay. He wore a bright red cape that connected at the shoulders of his vest. His arms were covered in a form of chain mail and he wore detailed, black, knee-high boots. He stood, looking every bit like the Thor in the stories that Harry had read. A giant tornado appeared above them. Thor flew up and into it. He span his hammer from the strap and the destroyer found itself raised into the tornado while Grim teleported next to the others. It was difficult to see, but Grim was able to see the destroyer fire several blasts before he saw Thor fly towards it. A massive bright orange-yellow explosion occurred. The tornado disappeared as the destroyer fell to the ground. Thor descended down and landed before walking out of a dark cloud of dust. "So is this what you normally look like?" Jane asked Thor when he approached. "More or less," Thor shrugged. "It's a good look," Jane said while blushing slightly, earning a smile from Thor. "We must go to the Bifrost site," Thor said to Sif and the Warriors 3. "I need to have words with my brother." "Excuse me," a voice said as Coulson arrived on scene. He walked towards them while a group of SHIELD agents stayed put by a nearby car. "Any doubt in my mind about who he is gone now," Coulson said to Grim as he gestured to Thor. "Know this, son of Cool," Thor said to Coulson. "You and I fight for the same cause, the protection of this world. From this day forward you can count me as your ally. If you return the equipment you have taken from Jane." "Stolen," Jane corrected. "Borrowed," Coulson disagreed. "Stolen," Grim commented. earning a smile from Jane and Thor along with I know you're a smartass but not right now. Look from Coulson. You will have your things back. Coulson said to Jane. You are going to need it to continue your research. Thank you for your help. Thor said to Grimm as he held out a hand. Grimm hesitated before he shook it. Is there anything else I can help you with? Grimm asked. No. Thor replied as he shook his head. You have done enough. You have my gratitude, but I will handle the rest. Would you like to see the bridge we spoke of? Thor asked Jane. Sir. She nodded. Thor wrapped an arm around her waist, earning a giggle. Wait, I need to debrief you. Coulson said but was not able to say more as Thor took off into the air with Jane alongside him. Thank you, warrior, Lady Sif said to Grimm. But we must go now. Perhaps we will meet again. Hopefully under better circumstances. Volstagg added before he and the other Asgardians gave one last nod to Grimm and walked away. Well, today has been eventful, Coulson said after a short silence. Chapter 47 A Night with Natasha. Hey, Natasha said as she entered Harry's apartment. She was instantly greeted by Padfoot, who happily rubbed his head against her leg, until she began petting him. Hello to you too, she smiled at him. I am not interrupting anything, am I? She asked Harry, who was sitting on his sofa, a PlayStation remote control in his hand. When has that ever stopped you? Harry snorted as he continued playing. What are you playing? She asked as she walked in and sat next to him. The latest WWE game. I brought it today, Harry replied. Which one are you? She asked. The bloke with the mask. Harry answered. I can see that you are winning, she said. Anyway, I wanted to know if you were willing to go out with me tonight. No, Harry answered instantly. Why not? She pouted. Don't do that, Harry said without looking at her. And because I don't want to, how about I play you for it? She asked with a smirk. What? Give me some time on the game for practice, then I will play you for it. If I win, then you will come out tonight with me, she said. Unless you're chicken. She grinned at him. Chicken. Wow. Harry rolled his eyes. Fine, you got it, Red. Let me finish up, Harry said. This is total bullshit, Harry complained as he and Natasha walked into a cinema. Is someone upset because he lost? Natasha said in a mocking voice. That wasn't still total bullshit. I was winning the whole match and then you just started spamming buttons, Harry replied. Besides, it's not my fault. I had pressed triangle. It's not my fault if my character didn't obey instructions. Maybe your character also noticed that you needed time out of your apartment. She shrugged. Now stop complaining and chose a film. I'm choosing. Fine. Harry rolled his eyes before looking at the available films. How about that one? Harry said as he pointed to the film that looked the most entertaining. Of course you would chose an action film, she said in an amused tone. Come on, let's go, she said as she grabbed his arm and began dragging him to the go get the tickets. Stupid controller, Harry said under his breath. Admit it, Natasha said after she swallowed down a bite of her burger. You enjoyed it, she said in a knowing voice. She and Harry were currently sat together at a single table in a fast food restaurant. Both had ordered a burger and chip meal. It was not horrible, Harry admitted before he finished the last bit of his burger and had moved on to eating his chips. I'm sure, she said dryly. Anyway, I did enjoy tonight. Maybe we should go out next week. Perhaps on a date, she added. She looked at Harry and saw his face was blank as he looked back at her. Would you like that? Going on a date together? No, Harry said with a slight shake of his head. No. No to which one? I am not going out on a date with you, Harry replied. Okay, but I can at least know why. I mean, why not? We get along together just fine. Your dog approves of me. If that is a factor, I think you are good looking. You think I am good looking. What is the problem? The problem is I am not interested in dating you, Harry replied. Yeah, you said that already, but why not? She pressed. Harry paused. She was about to continue when his wand appeared in his hand. He waved it a couple of times before it disappeared. What was that? She asked. Just making sure we have privacy, Harry answered. As for your question, how about the fact that you are a spy? How about the fact that you're one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s best at spying? So what? You think all I plan to do is get close to you and learn your secrets? Are you going to tell me that your original reason for approaching me wasn't because Fury ordered you to do so? Harry raised an eyebrow. Well, Natasha paused. She was tempted to lie but decided that it was probably better she didn't. He did at first, but a few weeks after you started working for S.H.I.E.L.D. he told me I didn't have to. But I did enjoy our time together. That's why I keep coming to visit you. She said in an honest voice. Harry, who was using passive legitimacy to merely see if she was being truthful, did not detect any lies in her words. All right, maybe that's true. Let's say I believe you. That does not mean that the two of us should date. Harry responded. Listen, Nat. I have done some bad things. Very bad things, and you are not the only one. I've killed innocent people. That still haunts me to this day. Do you know where I am from? Harry asked suddenly, cutting her off. I don't see what that has to do with anything, but you were originally born in Britain. She answered. Part right. Harry replied. What I am about to tell you is a high-level S.H.I.E.L.D. secret. As of right now, the only person besides Fury, Coulson and Hill that know this is me. Do you understand how serious this is? He said. Both eyes locked onto her as he gave her an intense look. Fine. I won't tell anyone, but what does this have to do with our current subject? I was born in another world. Harry blurted out, surprising Natasha. Another world? You mean that you are an alien? I mean that I was born on an Earth exactly like this one, except with a great few changes. Chapter 48 Tale of War. Another Earth. You're from an alternate dimension. Natasha blurted out. She was a bit surprised at how she easily believed this, but figured that between enhanced individuals and magical beings she must have somehow reached a point where she would believe anything. Yeah, it's like this Earth, but there are a few major differences. Like what? Well, for example, there are different countries on this Earth, Wakanda and Latveria. They don't exist on my world, or at least I had never heard of them. Okay. Natasha let out a deep breath as she took a moment to process what she was being told. Go on. There was no S.H.I.E.L.D. either. In WW2 there was no Captain America, and I am pretty sure that there was no Hydra. Stark didn't exist on my world either, as far as I know. There are probably tons of other difference. One major one was in my world there was a secret world of witches and wizards that I was a part of. We hid from the Muggles. Muggles. Basically anyone who isn't magical and is born outside of a magical family. You see, there was this sort of divide. Muggles did not know we existed unless there happened to be a Muggle-born, or first-generation magic user, born into their family. Those two terms basically refer to a magic user born from a Muggle family, though if people wanted to be insulting then they would call them mudblood. It's kind of like saying the N-word to a black person. Anyway, there were others. A squib would be the opposite of a Muggle-born. It means a non-magic person born into a magical family. At the top of the poll you would have purebloods. Those are people who are born in a magical family and have at least two sets of magical grandparents. I, on the other hand, am a half-blood. My father and his family were magical, but my mother was a Muggle-born. We could have lived happily ever after if not for the war. I know I am probably not going to like the answer, but the war. A large amount of purebloods had it into their heads that they needed to either kill or enslave the non-purebloods and then rule the world in their own image, which was obviously evil and wrong and stupid when you consider problems such as population and jobs. But never mind that. Anyway, there was this half-blood, a powerful one. He had everyone convinced that he was a pureblood and would lead the purebloods into a new world where they were on top, kind of like Hitler then. Uglier. Harry nodded. My parents were in school during the First War. They had me and they died right at the end of the war. I was sent to my non-magical relatives who hated me for my magic. It was an enjoyable experience. I rejoined the magical world when I was 11. I thought it was an escape from my problems. I look back now and I realize that it was just the start. I suffered a lot. I killed the first time that year, Harry said, his gray eyes locked on her green ones. A dark wizard was trying to kill me. I burnt him to ashes. It was self-defense and nobody apart from a few knew about it, so I didn't have any legal problems with that. But as time went by everything went worse. The leader of the dark side came back when I was 14. The government spent an entire year denying his return and slandering me when I tried to tell everyone he was back. When they finally were willing to admit he was back, he had already had a full year head start on the idiots. Eventually war started. A lot of lives were lost. You lost friend and family, she said. Her words were not phrased as question. I lost a lot, Harry said, his voice never leaving the calm and bland tone he had taken. There's only so much a person can take before snapping. I snapped eventually. Nobody on my side of the war was doing anything extremely helpful. When I was 15 I took it on myself to go and get the job done. You went after them alone. At 15, she blurted out. At nights I would go after a target and sneak back in. Great thing about wand-based magic is everyone has a fighting chance since we all had the same weapon. The first time I caught a target I let him go. I didn't kill him. I just dropped him off to the Aurors with evidence of his crime. Aurors. Sort of. Magical policeman. If you will, Harry replied. Anyway, a few days later he was back out after some bribes, and a couple of days later he takes part in a raid on a Muggle orphanage. Burnt it to the ground. It was one of many reasons, but eventually I realized that in a war, people needed to die. I killed more on their side while they killed more on my side. During a time when it was a full-on war, one was brought to trial for all those I killed. It didn't help my case that a great many people at the trial, including the judge, were pureblood sympathizers. I escaped and ended up with a two-front war. Eventually the war spilled out of just the wizarding world and the Muggles got involved. The longer it lasted, the more people got involved and the more people dead. As for me, when I wasn't killing someone I was planning and training, I trained with the British Army. I learned whatever magic I could learn. I killed a lot of them. It was easy for me. Too easy. I've been called a lot of things. One of the things that stuck out, that I always remember, is Army Killer. And I was earning that title. I have literally lost count of how many men and women I killed. I survived that war. I lived on for a few more years. I died when I was 121 years old. Then I was reborn on this world. New body, but still every bit is broken. I still have nightmares from that time. You know, I still hear the voices of those people that died, friends and enemies, saying things they've said before or saying whatever my mind can think up. Why are you telling me all this? Natasha asked, her voice soft and quiet. Because you scare me, Harry replied, surprising her once more. You scare me more than giant robots and wars. Because I like you, I like our talks, and I like our time together. You are hope. It's what you give me, and I can't have any more of that. I don't want that. I don't want to lose someone again. You can do better than me, Nat. And Mule, I don't want to care for another person just to have them die in my arms. That won't happen, Natasha said. She tried to reach her hand across the table and touch his, but he pulled his hand out of her reach. Harry, are you immortal? Harry cut her off. Can you die? Harry paused, waiting for her answer. Yeah, that's what I thought, Harry said when she didn't answer. If you don't mind, I am going to go home now. He stood up and left some money on the table. Food's on me, Harry said before he walked off, not looking back for a moment. Ickle, wickle. Lonely little Potter all alone. Don't worry, Auntie Bellatrix will play with you. Come on, Harry, let's play, let's play. The voice screeched in his ear and Harry's eyes snapped open. It took a few steady breaths, but he was eventually able to calm down enough to remember where he was. Harry sat up. He rubbed the sleep out of his eyes before he sat up and began stretching. A quick stop to the bathroom followed before Harry was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. He had sat down and began eating breakfast after he placed some food down for Padfoot. Padfoot slowly ate at the food, nowhere near his usual speed. Woof. Padfoot barked softly. I don't know, Padfoot. Harry sighed. Natasha had not come to visit for a week and Padfoot didn't seem to like that. It had been a couple of weeks since the last time Harry and Natasha had talked. She hadn't tried to contact him since and he didn't try to contact her either. Padfoot let out a whine, clearly not happy with his answer. Go fucking find her then if you are so worried, Harry said before he could stop himself. Perhaps slightly more harsh and snappish than he intended. Padfoot gave him a small glare before he stood up and left the room. Great, Harry sighed. My relationship with Nat is probably fucked beyond all repair. Now my dog's mad at me. Harry continued eating. Once he was done, his phone rang. Yeah, Harry answered. Mr. Potter. Nick Fury's voice spoke, surprising Harry slightly since he rarely ever spoke to Fury. For the most part he spoke to either Agent Coulson or Agent Hill about missions. Are you busy? Not really, Harry said with a small shrug, even if Fury couldn't see it. Good, Fury replied. We have something that would probably go a lot easier with your help. What is it? Have you ever heard of Captain America? You mean the WW2 hero famous for fighting against Nazi Germany? Has had many books written about him. His own sections in museums. The super soldier who crashed a plane into ice and has never been seen since. Yes, never heard of him. Ha ha, very funny, Fury said with a fake laugh. Now are you finished being a smart ass? It's a full-time job but I will restrain myself for now, Harry replied. Good, because we found him, Fury said. I'm sorry, but are you trying to tell me that you found Captain Bloody America? Harry asked incredulously. That is exactly what I am telling you. Are Coulson's pants still dry? Harry asked, knowing that the man was a massive Captain America fan. Is he still alive? I'm pretty sure that hearing Captain America is alive would cause some kind of major reaction. Should it? Now the captain is currently in a block of ice. I was hoping that you could help get him out of the ice with magic. It sounds doable, Harry said after a moment of thinking. When would you like it done? As soon as possible, Fury answered. Give me an address and a minute and I'll teleport over. Fucking hell. Harry whispered when he looked at the frozen form of Steve Rogers, aka Captain America. Fury had managed to get everyone out of the room apart from himself and Coulson. Can you get him out safely? Director Fury asked. Huh. Oh yeah, that shouldn't be a problem, Harry said dismissively. Still, it would be a miracle if this guy is still alive. If he is, then I reckon the super soldier serum would definitely have helped. Coulson replied, probably. Harry nodded before he pulled out his wand. All right, you two back up. Why? Coulson asked. Because the last thing this dude needs to see when he wakes up is a fanboy or a scary-looking pirate, Harry said as he began waving his wand. Fury glared at him, but he and Coulson stepped back. About 20 seconds later the ice had melted away. Harry quickly vanished the water before he looked at Captain America. He was wearing brown gloves and boots. He also wore a suit that was clearly inspired by the American flag. He, much like Thor, was an annoyingly good-looking blonde. Did you guys find that shield of his? Harry asked as he began waving his wand over the captain's body. The two men knew that Harry was clearly referring to the supposedly indestructible shield that Captain America was supposed to possess. Yeah, we did, Fury nodded. Why do you ask? Because he may want it back when he wakes up, Harry said after he had finished casting his spells. He is alive, pretty healthy as well. He'll probably be a bit hungry and tired when he wakes up, but apart from that he will be fine. You want me to wake him up now? Harry asked as he raised his wand. Personally, I think he has done enough sleeping. I don't know if this is exactly the right environment to wake him up in, Fury commented as he looked around the room. We'll move him somewhere comfortable first. Fine. But if I may offer a suggestion, be upfront with him, because if I was in his situation and woke up with people I thought were being dishonest, then I'd probably try and hurt you. Chapter 49 Captain America. Harry sat on a chair that was positioned at the end of the bed that Steve Rogers aka Captain America was sleeping on. His Captain America outfit had been replaced with brown trousers and a white shirt. They were both currently in a medical room at a SHIELD facility. Coulson and Fury had originally wanted to build a room similar to a hospital rooms from the time where the captain came from, but Harry had shot that idea down and insisted that they just keep things as honest and simple as possible. Harry's wand flicked into his hand. He pointed it at the captain and sent a spell to wake him. Before he got rid of his wand, Steve Rogers jumped to a sitting position. His eyes were wide and he had quickly begun looking around the room to see where he was. Eventually his eyes stopped on Harry and narrowed slightly. Who are you? And where am I? He asked quickly. You can call me Harry, Harry replied, just glad that the captain was not a attack first and ask questions later type of guy. He was also a bit surprised that the man had not commented on his hair yet, but knew that it would probably come up eventually. British, he guessed. Let me guess, the accent? Harry asked. Steve nodded in response. All right, well, Captain, may I call you Steve? Steve nodded, though Harry could tell that the man was ready to attack him if he felt threatened. What is the last thing you remember? 2 was in a plane, and I crashed into the ice. Steve frowned. Yeah, that's about right, Harry sighed. Well, you were in that ice for a long time. How long? Steve asked quickly. And where am I? You're at a SHIELD base. SHIELD. It stands for Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division. That's a bit of a mouthful, Steve commented. Indeed, Harry nodded. SHIELD was founded after the SSR defeated Hydra. It was formed in the 1950s by 3 people you more than likely know, Harry said, noticing Steve pick up on the fact that he was at least in the 50s. The 3 founders are Chester Phillips, Howard Stark and Peggy Carter. It was hard for Harry to not notice the look of recognition Steve had every time Harry mentioned a name. As for how long you have been in that ice, well, the answer is about 70 years or so. 70. You're saying I have been frozen for about 70 years? Steve blurted out in shock. Give or take, Harry nodded. You've missed a lot. That's a lot to take in, Steve said. 2 had a date, he added, more to himself. Yeah. Harry wasn't really sure to handle this, so decided to instead settle on a classic British method of cheering Steve up. Sorry about that, I guess do you want some tea? Harry offered. Wow, Steve said in a quiet voice as he walked alongside Harry. Harry had managed to convince Fury to let him take Steve out to see the world, though he had to promise to bring him back after when Steve wasn't looking. Harry had waved his wand and created some clothes for him, which was why Steve was wearing black trainers, blue jeans, a white shirt and a black jacket. Harry wore the same except with a gray shirt. Harry could tell that Steve found the clothes interesting, or at least very different from what he was used to. Let me guess. Not the same as your time, Harry said when he saw Steve looking around. Nope. Steve shook his head. Definitely not. I can't say anything about your time, but I will assume that the food is probably better now. There have been plenty of advances in food, clothes, technology, and just about any and everything else, Harry replied. Come on. I reckon that you are probably hungry. We'll go get something to eat, Harry said before he began walking towards a chip shop. I don't have any money, Steve said as he followed Harry. Naturally. You were frozen in ice for 70 years. I am still surprised you have functioning organs, Harry replied. Today's on me. What do you want to eat? Harry asked as they entered the shop. I don't really know. Surprise me, Steve replied. Fine. Go take a seat. I'll be back in a sec with the food, Harry said before he left to go buy food. He returned a few minutes later with a tray which he placed down on the table. He sat opposite Steve. Burger and chips for me. Same for you. Try it out. Okay, Steve said as he took his burger and took a bite. He let out very pleased noise before he could stop himself. Wow, that's good. Glad you like it. Harry smirked before he started eating as well. Harry stayed silent, wondering if Steve was going to say anything, but Steve decided to focus on his food, so Harry did the same. A short while later both had finished and left the shop. That was great, Steve said as the two walked together. Glad it meets your approval, Harry said before noticing Steve looking all around. He saw Steve paying attention to the clothing that people wore, the technology around him, and just everything. You'll get used to it, Harry said, bringing Steve's attention back to him. What? Steve asked as he looked at him. A new world, new people, you'll get used to it, Harry responded. You sound like you speak from experience, Steve commented. He waited for Harry's response, but Harry stayed silent. So, if you don't mind me asking, is the white hair a common thing these days? Not really, Harry shrugged. Some people decide for whatever reason that they want to change their hair color. Then they dye it, but I was born with white hair. Oh, sorry, it's just that I don't really know what's normal or not anymore, Steve said apologetically. This world, it just looks so different. I get it, Harry replied. In some ways it's better and in some ways it is worse. It's not perfect, but I don't think it ever was. True, Steve nodded in agreement. So, how long have you been working with S.H.I.E.L.D.? If you don't mind me asking. A few years, Harry answered. I am an ex-soldier. I didn't have a purpose after I stopped being a soldier, and I was just wandering around aimlessly. They gave me one. I don't really work for them as much as I work with them. They give me missions, but I still have the right to refuse if I don't like them. They only ever call me for certain missions. They'll probably want you to join up as well, providing you're still physically and mentally capable. And do you think I should? He asked. I think you should do what you want. Stay out of the spotlight and enjoy the rest of your life in peace, or join S.H.I.E.L.D. and keep fighting. It's all up to you, though from what little I know about you I would guess that you'd probably still be up for a fight, Harry responded. Just do yourself a favor. If you don't want to do something, then say no. You have done more than enough for the good of others. If you want to keep doing so, then let it be because you want to, not because somebody else wants you to. Thank you, Steve said in a soft voice. You're welcome, I suppose. Come on. We should get you back before I get in trouble, Harry replied. Harry was calmly watching TV when his phone began ringing. He rubbed his eyes and paused the TV before he took out his phone and answered it. Mr. Potter, Fury's voice came from over his phone. Are you there? Who else would it be? Harry rolled his eyes as he yawned. What do you want, Fury? Is this something to do with Steve Rogers? Harry asked. We have a situation, Fury replied. His voice somehow managed to sound far more serious than usual, serious enough to gain Harry's full attention. Agent Romanoff has spent the last few days on a mission for me. Today I received a distress call from her. It is believed that she is still alive but has been captured, Mr. Potter. Tell me everything. Chapter 50. A twist of fate. Grimm kicked the door down. walking into the hallway in his new suit. His wand was in his hand. His eyes were green. He walked like a man on a mission. The two men came out of a room, both holding guns in their hands. Grim flicked his wand and sent their guns flying out of their hands. He aimed his wand at the man on the right. The man screamed in pain as he felt his hair being pulled out of his head. His hair shot out from his scalp before it all combined together into the shape of a blade. Another flick of Grim's wand and the hair turned into an actual blade that flew into the chest of the other man. Grim cut down the first man with a cutting curse to the neck before finishing off the second with a couple of piercing curses to the chest. Grim walked past the bodies, barely giving them a glance. He turned the corner and saw two men charging towards him, one with a bat in his hands and the man behind him charged with a knife in his hands. Grim ducked under the bat and hit the second man with a kick to the chest that sent him flying backwards and landing on his back. The man with the bat swung again, but Grim once again avoided it. With a simple flick of his wand, the bat changed into a snake. The man who held it screamed and tossed it away, unintentionally dropping it near the knife wielder who was about to stand up before noticing the snake. The snake hissed before jumping at the man and sinking its fangs into his neck. The other man watched on in horror. Therefore he missed Grim, throwing a bone breaker at his skull which left him completely vulnerable to the right hook that followed. The man crashed headfirst into the floor. If that was not enough to kill him, then Grim stomping on his head probably didn't help. Grim walked past them, giving the two barely another thought. He placed a hand on his chest and pulled a knife out. He turned a corner and saw three men standing with guns. Grim knocked them all down with a blast from his wand. He threw the knife at the closest and it pierced through his chest. He shot the second with a killing curse which dripped him instantly. Grim hit the third with a powerful cruciatus curse that stopped him from getting up. Grim summoned the knife out of the first man but only did so to throw it back into his body. He summoned it out one more time and threw it one last time before walking on. Speak. Natasha heard him yell before he slapped her face. She spat some blood out, feeling glad that he had not managed to knock out any teeth. Seduction missions would be a lot harder if she was missing teeth. Speak. He barked. Natasha turned her head to look at her captor, a blonde-haired man with blue eyes and dressed in a suit. Behind him were two men, simply thugs working for the blonde one, both holding machine guns. The room was dark gray from the bottom to the top. The dark brown metal door was the only exit, and on the opposite side of the room she herself was sat on a floor, her wrists chained to the wall behind a chair, limiting her movement. Her legs were chained to the floor, meaning that if she wanted to escape she not only had to get out of the chains on her arms, but the ones on her legs. Her right cheek was bruised and her lip had a cut on the left side. There was also a small amount of blood pouring out of her forehead, and she was pretty sure that at least 3 of her ribs were broken and her left ankle was sprained. All in all, not the worst situation she had ever been in. Who are you working for? The blonde demanded as he grabbed her by the hair. I told you, I am not working for anybody. Natasha lied, making sure to act distressed as well. She was about to say more but trailed off when she saw the 2 thugs behind the blonde silently drop unconscious. I know you are lying, bitch. The man leered at her. You will tell me one way or another. I am going to make sure of that. Now we can do this the easy way or the man trailed off as he realized somebody had just moved behind him. What? He snapped as he turned around, only for his eyes to widen in fear upon seeing Grim standing in front of him. Grim grabbed him by the throat before throwing him halfway across the room. Grim flicked his wand in Natasha's direction and her chains released her. Grim turned back to the blonde who had gotten back to his feet. The blonde pulled out a gun which was quickly blasted out of his hand. Grim shot chains out of him from his wand. The chains wrapped around the blonde and left him on the floor and unable to move. Are you okay? Grim asked Natasha. I've had worse. Natasha replied dismissively. I will be fine. Good. Grim said before he turned back to the blonde and fired a cruciatus curse at the blonde. The blonde cried out in pain. Grim walked towards him, not letting the curse stop. Grim wrapped one hand around the blonde's throat and squeezed while keeping the curse up. Stop. Natasha said. Stop. She walked towards him, slower than she'd like due to her injuries. Harry. She placed a hand on his shoulder and shook him slightly, causing Grim to stop the curse and look towards her. What? We need him alive. Natasha said. Please, she added in a quiet voice when he looked like he was going to argue. Fine. Grim growled before hitting him with a stunner. Grim hit him with a featherweight charm to make him weightless. He picked him up and placed him over his shoulder before he offered an arm to Natasha. Hold tight. Grim added before he teleported the 2 out. Chapter 51 Mending Scars. Thanks. Natasha said as she sat in a hospital bed, Harry was sat next to her and waving his wand over her. He had healed her ribs and her ankle along with the cut on her head. He was now working on the bruise on her face and the cut on her lip. You're welcome. No healing bonds, stay still. I don't want to accidentally poke you in the eye, Harry said as he waved his wand over her face. This will sting slightly, Harry warned. Okay. Natasha's words stopped as she let out a slight hiss when she felt a stinging sensation on her cheek. Told you, Harry said as he waved his wand and conjured a hand mirror. Take a look, Harry said as he handed it to her. Thanks, Natasha said as she took the mirror. She looked at her face and was glad to see it looked undamaged, as if it was never damaged in the first place. Magic is still amazing. She smiled as she offered him the mirror. Keep it if you want, Harry replied. Really? Yeah, I don't mind. I got it for free, Harry joked. You can keep it or I can get rid of it. I'll keep it then, she shrugged before setting it aside. No point in wasting a good mirror, so thanks again for saving me. It's all right, just doing my job, Harry replied. Your injuries are healed, but if you want to go see a doctor to be sure, then feel free. You were going to kill him, weren't you? Natasha asked suddenly, her green eyes meeting his gray ones. Yeah, I was, Harry admitted honestly. Killing, fighting, it's just easy for me. Yeah, you're not the only one. Padfoot misses you by the way, Harry commented. Really? She asked in an amused tone as she raised an eyebrow. She knew he was trying to change the subject but decided not to comment on it, for now at least. Yeah, he was a bit upset that you weren't showing up like usual. Harry nodded. Well, if you had stayed a bit longer during our last conversation, then I could have told you I was leaving tomorrow and you could have told him that I was on a mission, she responded. To admit that I probably could have handled that better. Harry sighed as he ran a hand through his hair. Definitely could have. Probably could have handled that better, Harry repeated. Booty, really don't think that I am who you want, Nat. How much do you know about my history? Natasha asked suddenly. Everything that S.H.I.E.L.D. knows, Harry replied. I did my research on you. Then you should know how I was brought up. You said that your first kill was at 11. I was younger when I had my first kill. I don't know all about your past or what you went through, but I went through hell too. Maybe, just maybe, you'd feel better having someone to share it with. Do you know what happened to my last world? Harry asked. No, not really. Natasha frowned at his out of the blue question. It was ruined, wrecked beyond repair, Harry said in an emotionless voice. There was barely anybody for me to share it with. I promise you, Nat, that in the past I have tried to find someone to spend the rest of my life with. I tried to find a family. I once even had a godson. His name was Teddy. He was my biggest source of happiness, and I lost him and his mother the same day. Both were killed by members of the opposing army. From then, all I could do, all I wanted to do was torture and kill each and every single one of them. The guy who was responsible for killing my godson, I tortured him and his parents. Then I killed his mother in front of him, sent him to work in mines where he lost his hands. Then when he was nearly broken emotionally, mentally and physically, I brought him in front of his tortured father. I killed his father in front of him. Then I killed him and I enjoyed every minute of it. You can do better than that, Nat. Perhaps, Natasha nodded. But you answer me this, do you want to hurt me? No, but that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Yes, but you are a changed man, aren't you? I am, but that doesn't. Then there is nothing for me to worry about, is there? She replied before he could finish. Nat, I told you already, I don't want to get close to someone just to lose them again. And I know, she cut him off. I remember you telling me that, but I want to know something. Is it worth it? Is what worth it? Is cutting yourself off, never getting close to someone, worth it? I mean, what's better between never having something or enjoying what you have while you can have it? She said, as in a way that would lead you to believe that he had asked to her a very stupid question. Okay, so I save your life and you thank me by arguing with me. Harry raised an eyebrow. First of all, you didn't save my life. I would have found a way out of there eventually, she said, earning an eye roll from Harry. Second of all, if you saved my life, which I did, then I am repaying you by talking some sense into you. I hate you. No, you don't. She smirked, no doubt in her voice. Chapter 52 Mind Control. You wanted to see me? Grimm asked as he entered Fury's office by teleporting in. He was of course invisible until after he had entered the office and confirmed that it was just him and Fury. which combined with his silent teleportation made it look like he simply appeared, probably unnecessary, but he had learnt early on that appearances can be important. He saw Fury sitting behind his desk and was a little surprised that he didn't have Coulson and Hill with him. "You can drop the costume," Fury said in a tired voice. Harry's suit dissolved away, leaving Harry standing in black trainers, blue jean, a gray shirt and a black jacket. "You sound like you've had a great day," Harry said in a sarcastic voice. "A brilliant one," Fury said in a dry voice before his voice returned to his usual serious one. "Can you track Barton?" Fury asked suddenly. "More than likely, but a good question that I would like to know the answer to is why you want me to track Barton in the first place." Harry raised an eyebrow at Fury. "Because, believe it or not, it doesn't sound good when a director of a government agency asks a wizard to find one of their best and most deadly employees. Barton has been compromised," Fury admitted, though he looked like it pained him to do so. "By somebody named Loki." "Loki?" Harry blinked. "Oh, for fuck's sakes, please tell me you don't mean the brother of Thor. It's not that Loki, is it?" "We suspect it is the very same." Fury nodded. He tapped Barton's chest with a tip of a scepter. "The next thing I know, Barton's treating Loki like he was his damn boss." "Mind control," Harry muttered under his breath before looking at Fury. "Describe it. How did Barton act?" "Slow." "Did he always wait for orders before doing anything, even speaking?" Harry asked, giving Fury his full attention. "No, he talked and acted like he usually did." Fury frowned as he shook his head. "It was more like Loki had somehow managed to change his perspective. I am not sure how fully under control he is." "Why?" Harry asked. "Because he shot me, but he didn't go for a headshot," Fury answered. "He could have, easily, but he didn't." "You were wearing a body vest." "Naturally. I will get a sample of Barton's blood and—" "There's a problem with that," Fury interrupted. "Barton knew about your ability to track people through blood. That's probably why this morning I received reports of our medical facilities being attacked. It wasn't just that the blood wasn't destroyed. The database was messed with, so information on which blood belongs to who is probably wrong until we fix it." "Well, that's great." Harry rolled his eyes. "Is there anything else you could use to track him? Like a hair or one of his arrows?" "Not as effective." Harry shook his head. "If he was close range, then great, but it's not as effective long range since he is not magical." "I've sent some information to your shield tab," Fury said, referring to the tablet that Fury had given him when he had joined. "All the information we have," Fury added. Harry mentally translated Fury's words into "all the information we think you should know. I would also like you to accompany Agent Romanoff on a mission." "Kill? Capture?" Harry asked. "There's someone that we would like to bring in, peacefully. We need his help and would like it if he willingly helped us out. All the information will be on your tab." A short while later, Harry was at home, rubbing his eyes, tempted to smash his tablet and throw it out of his window. He had just read up on all the information S.H.I.E.L.D. had about the Tesseract, or at least all of the information they had given him. Harry trusted Fury. To a degree, he doubted he would ever 100% completely trust him, but he respected him enough to not read his mind at every opportunity, although now he was admittedly very tempted to do so. The Tesseract, a bright blue cube, was what Fury wanted back. Apparently S.H.I.E.L.D. wanted to use it as a power source due to the fact that they believed it could be the key to unlimited energy. Harry knew that it was probably more than just that. He had learnt long ago to never take people's words as absolute truth. Harry believed in trust but verify. And since he didn't fully trust S.H.I.E.L.D., that meant more verifying. Harry also read up on the information of the other people Fury wanted to bring in. One of them was Steve. Harry knew that Fury had some reason for bringing Captain America in beyond an extra set of enhanced hands. Then there was also Stark. Admittedly, Harry understood why he wanted to bring Stark in. The man's Iron Man suit was an incredibly advanced and brilliant bit of tech, and the man behind its creation was a genius. No matter who you asked, there was information on Barton and Natasha, but Harry had skipped that as he already knew all he could about them. There was also information on Loki. Limited information, but better than nothing. The information included various myths and legends about him, including myths about him being the father to a snake big enough to wrap itself around the world. If that existed, then Harry wouldn't really mind meeting it, providing it didn't try to eat him, but Harry doubted it. That sort of thing was kind of hard to miss, especially in a world as technologically advanced as this one. He didn't completely dismiss the possibility, mostly so he didn't look like an idiot in case he was wrong. There was also information on Thor, myths, stories and guesses, but the confirmed facts were stuff that Harry already knew. Then there was information on Bruce Banner, A genius who apparently had 7 PhDs, which Harry personally thought was a bit overboard. The man seemed to specialize in radiation, specifically gamma radiation, which was more than likely why S.H.I.E.L.D. wanted him, as the Tesseract produced low levels of the stuff, though Harry knew that was not where S.H.I.E.L.D.'s interest in the man ended. There was also the fact that the man possesses the ability to turn into an enormous green rage monster. Hulk was the name they had given Banner's other half. The Hulk was a green-skinned being who stood at an estimated 8 to 9 feet tall and was able to pick up and throw cars like they were footballs. His strength was insane, and so far a limit hasn't been discovered. Not thanks to a lack of trying, since the army was very insistent on trying to catch him. Either to kill him or study him. Harry was leaning more to the second. It was hypothesized that the Hulk's strength is related to his Banner's emotional state, meaning it would be good to keep the guy as calm as possible. Hulk had also fought a similar creature called Abomination. The two had destroyed a large amount of Harlem during their fight, though Hulk had won in the end. In a way, it sort of reminded him of Remus Lupin with his furry little problem. Furry wanted Natasha to try and convince Bruce Banner to work with them, but he also wanted Harry to come in case Bruce decided to let Hulk take over the negotiations, which meant Harry had to be ready to fight the Hulk if it came down to it. Wouldn't that be fun? Harry thought sarcastically. Chapter 53 Natasha's mission. Bruce Banner was currently in India. He had spent a lot of his time healing people. It was a great way for him to not only gain money but also help people. He never stayed in one spot for long. That would just make him easier to be found. As of the moment he was being guided towards a house by a young girl who had told him that her father was sick. She led him into a small brown wooden house. As soon as he got into the house, he looked around to see if he could find the father, but saw nobody. In fact, that house looked suspiciously empty. He turned to look at the girl and saw her quickly exiting the house through a window. He was about to follow after her but stopped when he realized that he was not in fact alone. You should have got paid up front, Banner, Bruce said to himself, realizing that he had been tricked. You know, for a man who's supposed to be avoiding stress, you have picked a hell of a place to settle in, Natasha said as she walked into the room, making herself known. Avoiding stress isn't the secret, Bruce replied as he turned to look at her. What is it? Yoga, Natasha joked. You brought me to the edge of the city. Smart, Bruce commented as he looked out the window. I assume the whole place is surrounded. Yes, a male voice replied. Bruce looked back and saw Grim standing in the corner, his cloak covering his whole body. Who are you? Bruce asked in a calm voice. He's just basically here in case you decide to go green, Natasha explained. Who are you? Both of you, Bruce said as his eyes glanced between them both. I am Natasha Romanoff, Natasha answered before gesturing to Grim. His codename is Grim. And your actress buddy? Bruce asked as he gestured to where the girl had left. She a spy too? They start that young. I did, Natasha replied. Are you two here to kill me? Bruce asked. Because that's not going to work out for everyone. If we wanted to kill you, then you already would be dead, Grim responded. You do know who I am, right? Bruce asked. Yes, I also know how to remove your head in under 2 seconds, so if you think you can transform quicker than that, then try it, Grim replied, his green eyes locked onto Banner. Easy, Natasha said in a calm voice. Neither of us are here to harm you, she said to Banner. We are both here on behalf of S.H.I.E.L.D., she said. Natasha and Grim watched as recognition hit Bruce. S.H.I.E.L.D., Bruce said quietly. You don't look like a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, he said to Grim. He's not, Natasha said with a small shake of her head. He does some work with S.H.I.E.L.D. but he is not an agent, so the cloak and hood aren't the latest uniform. Bruce said in a jokey tone before his voice got more serious. How did they find me? We never lost you, Doctor, Natasha smiled. We even kept some other interested parties off your tail. Why? Nick Fury seems to trust you, Natasha said with a small shrug. But now we need you to come in, and what if I say no? Bruce asked, raising an eyebrow. I'll persuade you, Natasha said as Grim summoned his wand into his hand, the act covered by his cloak. And what if the other guy says no? Bruce asked. Then it'll be my turn, Grim replied. I spoke with Fury. His words were, we need his help and would like it if he willingly helped us out. We're not going to force you to come with us, and we won't take physical action against you as long as you don't take physical action against us. Besides, you've been keeping the other guy locked away for a better half of a year. I doubt you'd want to let him out now. Bruce hummed softly as his eyes looked around and stopped on a small cradle. He gently pushed it before speaking. I don't every time get what I want, he said. What he was implying was not lost on Grimm or Natasha. Doctor, we're facing a potential global catastrophe, Natasha said as she pulled her phone out and sat down. Oh, those I actively try to avoid, Bruce joked with a small smile on his face. Grimm was quite tempted to smirk at the joke but held himself back, even though nobody could see his face. This is the Tesseract, Natasha said as she showed him a picture of the Tesseract on her phone. She placed the phone down on a table and slid it ahead for Banner to pick up. Bruce placed his reading glasses on and picked up the phone to look at the picture. It has the potential energy to wipe out the planet. What does Fury want me to do? Swallow it. He wants you to find it. It's been taken, Natasha replied. It emits a gamma signature that's too weak for us to trace. There's nobody that knows gamma radiation like you do. If there was, then that's where I'd be. So Fury isn't after the monster? Bruce asked in a skeptical voice. Not that he's told me, he tells you everything. He doesn't, Grimm said, drawing Bruce's attention. Fury keeps secrets but he doesn't plan to harm you, and how do you know? Because Fury knows that I won't like it and he knows that I am someone he doesn't want on his bad side, Grimm replied as his green eyes locked onto Bruce's. And what happens if Fury's on your bad side? Bruce raised an eyebrow. He looked down and shook his head before looking up. When he looked up, he jumped back in surprise when he saw Grimm was no longer standing there. Bruce took a step back only to feel his back press against someone. Bruce quickly turned around and nearly fell backwards in surprise and would have if not for Grimm catching his arm. Nothing he'd like, Grimm whispered. Chapter 54 Helicarrier. Bruce Banner sat on a jet with Agent Romanoff as they flew to the SHIELD helicarrier. The only other person inside the jet was the pilot. Grimm, as he was apparently called, had told Agent Romanoff that he would be making his own way back. That had made Bruce a bit curious, but he decided not to think too much about that as he was already focusing on other things, for example the Tesseract. He was reading the information that Agent Romanoff had given him about it. It looked really interesting and Bruce was in fact very tempted to ask Nick Fury if he could study it after they found it. But he knew that that was unlikely. Bruce was really hoping that Fury would keep his word and let him go, because he really did not want to see what would happen if Fury suddenly decided to change his mind about putting the Hulk in a cage, though Grimm said he wouldn't do that. But then that brought up the problem of how much he would be willing to put his faith in the hands of a man who goes by Grimm. I'm sorry about him, by the way, Natasha commented, earning Bruce's attention. He looked up from the information he was reading about the Tesseract and looked at her. I beg your pardon. Bruce gave her a questioning look. Grimm, Natasha said. I hope he didn't bother you too much. He didn't mean anything bad. He is just not really good around new people. I think the other guy might have had an affect on him, Bruce said in a dry voice. Without a doubt, Natasha replied, not even bothering to deny that Harry was thinking about the Hulk. Grimm's an enhanced like you, but he is also a former soldier who had fought plenty of other enhanced individual. He was testing you, testing me. Bruce frowned. You mean my self-control? Bruce asked. Exactly, Natasha nodded. It was a test. How you reacted would decide how he would react. If you were easily provoked, then he would probably be keeping a closer eye on you. If it makes you feel better, then it's not really a personal thing. Plus I think you passed. She finished with a small smile. Joy. Bruce rolled his eyes. How strong is this guy supposed to be? You said he is an enhanced. What are his powers? You'll have to ask him that, Natasha said with an apologetic voice. I'm not really permitted to tell you, however. If you want my honest opinion, then I think that he is a good man underneath all the shadows and threats. Fury won't do anything to you. Especially not with Grimm making sure you're treated right. Bruce looked like he really did not believe her. Even if it was clear that he wanted to. Natasha was on the helicarrier, waiting for the second jet to arrive with Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, and surprisingly Coulson was the one on the jet with him, which to be honest wasn't that surprising since Coulson was a high-level agent and a great friend of Nick Fury's. The question on most people's mind was, did Fury place Coulson there for any reason beyond knowing that Coulson was a big Captain America fan? Natasha was brought out of her thoughts when the jet did finally arrive and Coulson exited along with Steve, who was wearing some clothing that looked rather old-fashioned clothing when compared to what most people that looked his age would wear. Agent Romanoff, Phil Coulson said in greeting upon seeing her. Captain Rogers. He gestured with his head to Steve. Captain Rogers, meet Agent Romanoff. Ma'am. Steve nodded to her. A pleasure. Natasha smiled at them both before turning to Coulson. She was about to speak when another voice suddenly spoke. They need you on the bridge, Harry said to Coulson as he walked up to the group. They are about to start the face trace. Harry added in the form of an explanation. Fine. I will see you all there, Coulson said as he walked away. Harry. Steve nodded to Harry as he extended his hand. Steve. Harry nodded back as the two shook hands. You look better. Feeling better, Steve replied. Still just trying to get used to everything. If I let you in on a secret. I am still trying to get used to everything. It was quite the buzz around here, finding you in the ice, Natasha said to Steve as the trio began walking. Thought Coulson was going to swoon. Natasha added, earning a snort from Harry. Did he ask you to sign his Captain America trading cards yet? Trading cards? Steve asked. He looked partly amused and partly as if he was wondering if those cards actually existed. They're vintage, Natasha said with a small smile. He's very proud. You know, if you sign a photo for him, he will probably sleep with it, if he doesn't frame it and place it above his bed. Harry said. Hey, be nice, Natasha said, though the smile was still on her face. Coulson's just a big fan. At least he knows when to be professional. I suppose, Harry conceded. In that regard, Coulson was a lot better than most of Harry's old fans. Dr. Banner, Steve said as he noticed. Dr. Banner, who was dressed like a teacher. He was looking very nervous as he looked around in all directions and was trying not to get in anyone's way. Oh yeah. Hello, Bruce said as Steve shook his hand. They told me you were coming, Bruce added. Word is you can find the cube. Steve asked in a questioning voice. Is that the only word on me? Bruce asked knowingly. It's the only word I care about, Steve said in an honest voice. And who are you? Bruce asked Harry. Harry Potter, Harry said as he offered Bruce a hand. Bruce shook it and nodded in greeting. And what is it that you do? Mr. Potter is simply here to provide assistance if it's required, Natasha said. And what kind of assistance does he provide? If you don't mind me asking, Steve asked in a curious voice. I know you're an ex-soldier, he said to Harry. What exactly is it that you do? A lot of things, Harry replied. Boys, you might want to step inside, Natasha said, interrupting whatever lie or half-truth that was about to come out of Harry's mouth. It's about to get hard to breath. She nodded at Harry, who gave a slight nod back in appreciation for bringing the attention off of himself. What is this thing? Banner asked as he followed Steve towards the edge of the Helicarrier. Is this a submarine? Steve asked as he looked over. Really? Bruce couldn't help but blurt out. They want me in a submerged, pressurized metal container, he said in a disbelieving tone. Any further words were cut off when Bruce and Steve saw something big rising out of the water. Eventually they saw that it was a massive turbine. Soon the whole ship began to rise. The waters were batted away as air slapped against Bruce and Steve. Oh no, this is much worse. Chapter 55 The Gathering Storm. Eventually everyone had got inside where Director Fury was waiting for them. Fury did not say anything and instead waited for Steve and Bruce to finish looking around. Bruce looked very nervous. Even if he hid it decently well, it was clear he was worried about what would happen if Fury decided to not keep his word. Steve, on the other hand, was clearly impressed by what he was seeing. For some reason or the other, he walked up to Fury and handed him $10. More than likely the result of some bet. Harry glanced towards Hill and saw an unhappy expression on her face as she looked between Bruce and Steve. He saw her glance at him, but she tried to play it off. Harry decided to ask her about it later. Doctor, thank you for coming, Fury said to Bruce as the two shook hands. Well, thank you for asking nicely, Bruce replied. So how long am I staying? Once we get our hands on the Tesseract. You're in the wind. Okay, and how's that going? Bruce asked. We're sweeping every wirelessly accessible camera on the planet, Coulson answered. Cell phones, laptops, etc. If it's connected to a satellite, then it's just another eye and ear for us. That's still not going to find them in time. Natasha frowned. You need to narrow down your field, Bruce said. How many spectrometers do you have access to? He asked. How many are there? Fury asked. Call every lab you know, Bruce said. Tell them to put the spectrometers on the roof and have them calibrate them for gamma rays. I'll rough out a tracking algorithm. Basic cluster recognition. That way we can at least rule out a few places. Is there somewhere I can work? Bruce asked. Agent Romanoff, Fury called. Can you escort Dr. Banner to his laboratory, please? Natasha nodded before gesturing Bruce to follow her. You're going to love it, Doc, she said as the two walked away. We got all the toys, really? Bruce asked. You have a Commodore 64. Ooh, I'm not sure. Oh, you're very young. Bruce chuckled. Agent Hill, Fury said to Hill once he saw Steve follow Coulson out of the room. Did you tell the council that Barton had been compromised? Was that not procedure? She raised an eyebrow at him. Fury didn't respond. Did you tell them who exactly is on your response team? It doesn't appear that I have to, Fury said with a false smile before turning back to Harry. Mr. Potter, I need you on standby. I sense that there is something here that you don't really want to talk about, Harry commented as he gestured between Hill and Fury. Response team. Council. I assume the World Security Council. Something you want to tell me, Fury? Harry asked, raising an eyebrow. Later, Fury sighed. I promise, he added when Harry looked like he was about to protest. Fine, Harry replied. By the way, what about Operation -3 rupees? Harry asked. I've been working on it. Fury nodded. However, now is not the time for it. As soon as Loki is dealt with for good, we can act on it. Fine. Call me when I am needed, Harry said before he walked out of the room. He found an abandoned room before he teleported back home. Half an hour later, Harry got a call. Yeah. Harry answered the call. You're needed, Fury's voice responded. In Germany, Loki was stood, preaching to a group of people that he had captured, enjoying the looks of fear that they were giving him as he talked. Loki was wearing dressed in black, but he had various bits of gold armor on, including a gold helmet with 2 big horns. Not to men like you, an old man said to Loki when Loki told them to kneel, standing up against him. He was the only one, as the rest of the crowd had kneeled to Loki, too afraid to do anything. There are no men like me. Loki laughed at the very idea. There are always men like you. The man glared at him, not backing down. Look to your elder people. Loki smiled as he pointed his scepter at the old man. Let him be an example. Loki shot a blue blast at the old man from his scepter. The old man's eyes widened as it shot towards him. He thought it was his end when suddenly Captain America dropped in front of the old man. His shield blocked the blast and sent it back to Loki, knocking him to his feet. Loki looked up to see Captain America standing in front of him. The captain was wearing a full blue bodysuit made of Nomex and Kevlar fiber. There was white and red stripes on his midsection, a star on his chest, and an A on the blue helmet he wore. The helmet also had white wings drawn on the side. The suit had also came with a red belt plus red gloves and shoes. It was clearly made based off of his old costume from World War II. Inches, you know, Cap said as he walked forward as the crowd began running away. The last time I was in Germany and saw a man standing above everyone else, we ended up disagreeing. The soldier, the man out of time, Loki chuckled, speaking in a voice that was somewhere between amused and irritated. I'm not the one who is out of time, Cap replied as a jet flew on scene and hovered above them. Loki, stand down, Natasha's voice said from the jet's speaker system as a gun came out of the bottom of the jet and threateningly aimed towards Loki. Loki raised his scepter. He was about to fire, but somebody took action before he could. That somebody was Grim, who was currently invisible and standing next behind Loki. Grim took his wand into his hand and shot a stunner at Loki's back, but instead of knocking him out, it merely pushed him ever so slightly forward. Who's there? Loki said as he turned around. He smirked at the failed attack. Show yourself, coward. A second later, Grim became visible. His green eyes locked onto Loki, his cloak ending at the back of his thighs. Ah. The wizard. Loki's smirk grew bigger. Yes, Barton's told me about you, Loki said. Chapter 56 Battle with Loki, Miss Romanoff. Cap whispered into the communicator device in his ear. Who the hell is that? He's a friendly, Natasha answered. Back. What exactly has Barton told you about me? Grim asked. If he had to guess, then he would assume that Loki's skin was simply too thick for his stunner to properly take effect. After all, the man was technically an alien. That likely meant that his spells needed more power to be effective. But Grim was not one to risk going full out at the start of a fight. It was a lesson he had learned the hard way. Quite a lot. Loki laughed. How you enjoy the sight of your enemy's blood. How you are nothing more than a weapon that is aimed at whoever shield decides. Oh, and your name? Loki added, almost as an afterthought. Harry. Really? Such a boring name. Harry. Cap mouthed as he looked at Grim with narrowed eyes. Stand down or I will hurt you, Grim warned Loki, ignoring Cap for the time being. I'd like to see you try, Loki said in a challenging voice. If that's what you want. Grimm replied before he aimed his wand at Loki and fired a red beam at him. Loki dodged before firing a blue blast at Grimm. Grimm blocked it with a magical shield. When Cap struck Loki in the back by throwing his shield at him, Loki took a step forward but was not bothered beyond that. He turned and threw a knife at Cap, who quickly ducked under it. Grimm flicked his wand and a high-powered blasting curse charged towards Loki. Loki rolled under it and fired another blast at Grimm, who teleported away. As soon as Loki had turned around, he saw Cap throw his shield at him. Loki batted it away only for Cap to quickly close the distance and hit him with a hard right hook to the face. Loki was unfazed by it and struck Cap away, causing him to fall on the ground. Loki suddenly found himself hoisted up by his ankles. A second later he was kicked hard in the face and dropped a couple of meters away. Loki stood up only to be blasted back down to the floor. "Stand down," Grimm ordered. "And if I don't?" Loki sneered. He raised his scepter only for Grimm to flick his wand and send it out of his hand. "I hurt you," Grimm answered, "because that's what you do, isn't it?" Loki smirked as he raised his hands in a submissive gesture and slowly stood up. "You like it, don't you? It's what you need, and you know it." Loki took a step forward. Grimm quickly fired a yellow beam at Loki, but the beam passed straight through him. Loki suddenly started disappearing. Harry's eyes widened as he realized that it was an illusion. He quickly turned around and struck Loki, who was behind him, only to realize that it was another illusion. Grimm turned back around, but his wand arm was quickly grabbed by Loki, who quickly tapped Grimm's chest with the tip of his scepter. "You can kill to your heart's content. By my side," Loki said as the blue orb in his scepter glowed. Grimm's eyes shifted from green to blue as the mind control began taking effect. Loki smiled happily before he let go of Grimm. He turned to Captain America, who threw his shield at him. Loki easily swatted it away. "What did you do to him?" Cap demanded as he looked at Grimm, who was swaying on his feet. "I would say I have enhanced his mind." Loki smirked before he looked at Grimm. Loki's eyes widened slightly when he still saw a tint of green in Grimm's eye. He tapped Grimm's chest with the scepter again and the little green left was gone. Loki, seemingly satisfied with his control over Grimm, stepped back and looked towards Cap. He was about to say something when he heard a gasp from Grimm. He looked back at Grimm, who had fallen down and was now lying face first on the ground. "Huh." Loki poked him with the blunt end of his scepter. "I think I might have broken him." Loki frowned. He then saw Cap run for his shield. Loki quickly jumped over Grimm's body and engaged in combat with Cap. What Loki hadn't realized was that Grimm had defenses in his mind, for if he was ever mind controlled, Grimm considered it a necessary thing when you're in a world where the Imperious Curse is a thing. Normally he could fight against that, but he didn't want to chance what would happen if he couldn't. His defense would have him temporarily shut down his body and mind before he woke up. Much like what would happen if you turned off a switch then put it on a second later. Normally it would only take Grimm a few seconds to wake up if he was unable to fight off an Imperious, though whatever Loki had used in his scepter was considerably more powerful, which meant it was a good 30 seconds before he was able to raise his head. "Tell me, Harry," a female voice whispered in his ear, "how long do you think we can keep this up before you pass out?" "Let's find out." The voice cackled in his ear. Grimm shook it off and looked towards Loki as he stood up. Loki hadn't yet seen him as he was throwing Captain America around, since the Cap's enhanced strength did not compare to Loki's natural strength. Grimm, who had had incredibly bad experiences with the mind arts, did not at all appreciate someone, god or not, trying to take over his mind. A downside to his defense against mind control is that when he wakes up he experiences several of his more negative memories, so Grimm was undoubtedly pissed enough for the suit to believe that he wanted to activate the rage feature. Chapter 57 Grimm vs. Loki. Grimm reared his head back and bellowed towards the sky in anger. The suit became covered in magical fire. The flames weren't quite blocking the suit from view as they were thin and light, but they were clearly there. Grimm could not feel the heat though. His eyes were focused on Loki, who had stopped fighting Cap. Loki and Cap were now looking at him. Grimm charged towards Loki. Loki quickly fired a blast at Grimm, who easily sidestepped and quickly closed the distance. Loki swung his scepter like a bat, hoping to hit Grimm in the head. Grimm ducked and hit Loki with a right hook to the jaw. Loki flew backwards, but Grimm did not stop and chased after him. Grimm had managed to get 2 more punches in before Loki had fallen to the ground. Grimm had dropped a knee on Loki's chest and began quickly throwing punch after punch at Loki's face. It took several seconds before Loki was able to push Grimm off, but Grimm didn't let up. He got back on Loki and punched him once more before he raised his hands and tried to shove his thumbs into Loki's eyes. Loki managed to grab Grimm's wrists and keep him from striking his eyes, But Grimm kept pushing and Loki was quickly realizing that Grimm was somehow stronger than him. If Loki had known the Hogwarts motto of, never tickle a sleeping dragon, then he might have been able to appreciate it. At the moment Loki shoved Grimm off once more. Before quickly getting back up onto his feet, Grimm growled as he got up and charged at Loki. He grabbed Loki by the throat and raised him in the air before slamming him down with a very vicious choke slam. Loki did not get much time alone with his pain as Grimm had grabbed him by the ankle and span him before throwing him a great distance. Grimm teleported where Loki was about to land, and as Loki flew towards him he hit Loki in the face with a strong roundhouse kick. Loki flew back even more and landed on the top of his back before quickly using his momentum to roll to his feet. There was a rather healthy dose of fear in his eyes as Grimm charged at him. Grimm's hits were not just strong but also incredibly hot, and Loki was not really wishing to experience more. Grimm threw a punch, but Loki ducked and tried to stab Grimm in the leg, only to be surprised when he was unable to pierce Grimm's armor. Grimm's wand appeared in his hand. Grimm waved his arm quickly and Loki went flying back before crashing into the first floor wall of the building behind him. Grimm aimed his wand at Loki and 4 red beams shot out at once and headed towards Loki. The beams hit him and shoved him into the building. Grimm teleported after him. Agent Romanoff, Cap said into his earpiece, "Is that normal?" He asked. "No," she replied. Cap could almost hear her frown. "I've never seen that from him before." "You mean he's not usually this violent?" "I mean he's not usually this out of control. He's normally a lot more calm than that. Whatever Loki did to him must have had some effect on him." Cap was about to respond when Loki and Grimm suddenly appeared out of the air and landed in front of him. Loki kicked Grimm off of himself before standing up. Loki was now supporting a black eye the right side of his face and a bruised lip. Cap charged at Loki and was able to hit him in the face with a jumping knee to the face. Loki growled and shoved Cap off. He raised his spear but was not able to do any more as Grimm had struck him with a kick to the chest and sent him backwards. Grimm was about to follow up when suddenly he felt as if a massive bucket of cold water was dropped on him. His energy levels had hit rock bottom and he fell to his hands and knees. It was taking a lot of effort to stop himself from simply lying down and going to sleep. He was panting and breathing heavily. It appears that he might have slightly underestimated how much energy the rage feature would cost. He made a mental note to speak to the suit later about it, including telling it to wait for his direct approval before activating that particular feature. "Are you all right?" Cap asked in a concerned voice as he kneeled down next to him. "Tired?" Grimm gasped out as Loki got to his feet. "You hurt me," Loki growled as he spat some blood out. Loki's words were cut off by the sound of music playing from the jet's speaker. He along with Cap and Grimm looked towards the jet as they saw something fly towards them. A blast was shot from this new arrival that struck Loki in the chest and dropped him onto the floor just as the new arrival landed in front of them. "Make your move, reindeer games," Iron Man said as he aimed arms and a lot of weapons at Loki. Loki paused before raising his hands, his helmet and gold armor disappearing as he did so. "Good move," Iron Man said in an approving voice as he lowered and deactivated his weapons. "Stark." Cap nodded to him as he helped Grimm up to his feet. "Captain." Stark nodded back before he looked at Grimm. "The name's Grimm, isn't it?" he asked in a knowing voice. Chapter 58 A Wizard's Wrath. Grimm, or Harry as he was known when he wasn't wearing his mask, was in the jet along with the others. Natasha and her co-pilot were flying the jet while Captain America, aka Steve Rogers, and Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, stood behind them. Cap with his helmet off and Tony with his helmet taken off and placed on the side. Harry was sat on the closest seat towards the two while a bruised and handcuffed Loki was sat at the end of the jet on the seats opposite the ones that Harry was sitting on. Harry on the other hand had his hood and mask up as he had not yet taken them off. He would have usually just teleported back, but he was still suffering from the effects of his energy drain from his rage mode. He probably could teleport back, but he figured it'd be better to not risk it. Luckily for Harry, he was quickly getting his energy back. As of the moment, he was probably able to last a few minutes if he started fighting again. "Agent Romanoff," Nick Fury's voice spoke from the jet's communication system. "Has Loki been saying anything?" "Not a word yet," Natasha responded. "He's been quiet as a mouse so far." "Is Grimm with you?" Fury asked. "Yes, sir," Natasha replied. "He's right here with Stark and Cap." "Why do you ask?" "Because while you guys were dealing with Loki, an announcement was made on the news. It appears that Grimm's identity is no longer a secret," Fury said. Natasha felt like she could feel his frown from here. She, along with Cap and Stark, looked at Grimm, who was glaring at Loki, who simply smirked back. We'll deal with that when he gets back. Just get back quick. Harry Potter, right? Tony asked Grimm. It was on the news. Saw it just before I arrived. Harry growled at Loki before lowering his hood just as his mask disappeared. Wow. Nice hair, Tony said in an amused voice. Is that natural? Yes, Harry said through gritted teeth as he glared at Loki. Ah, was that information supposed to be secret? Loki asked in an innocent voice. I am not tired enough to not hurt you, Harry said in a warning tone, his eyes still green. I'd like to see you try. Loki said before Harry quickly aimed his wand at him and shot a high-powered Cruciatus curse. It was powerful enough to affect Loki, and the god of mischief started screaming in pain as he felt pain worse than he had ever felt before. He felt as if 1,000 white-hot knives had pierced his skin. Harry, stop. Steve said quickly as he grabbed Harry by the arm. Harry kept the curse on for a few more seconds before he cut it off. More to save energy than anything else, Loki had fallen to his knees and was panting heavily. Harry flicked his wand and Loki was sent back into his seat before the seatbelt reattached itself around him. What the hell was that? Tony blinked as he looked between the two. What did you to me? What was that? Loki demanded. Smile no longer on his face as he glared at Harry, his body still twitching, his face full of anger, but a well-trained eye could see the small flicker of fear in his eyes. Cruciatus curse, Harry said in a bland voice. Also known as the torture curse. Harry was a little surprised that he had not used the torture curse during his rage mode, but that was probably because he wasn't really thinking much during it. Honestly, his thought process had been limited to being angry and attacking the reason for him being angry. He hadn't even been thinking about anything else until his rage stopped. Rage mode was definitely not something that Harry was willing to use all the time. How dare you use that against me? Quit your whining. Harry rolled his eyes. I was 14 the first time I was hit with it, Harry told Loki when he looked like he was about to speak again. I didn't whine about it like you. Now shut your mouth before I put a silencing spell on you. You wouldn't dare. Want to try me? Harry asked in a challenging voice as he twirled his wand in his hand. Loki glared at him before huffing and looking away. He was trying to keep his twitching to a minimum and hide his pain, but it was still easily detectable. Cruciatus curse? Tony asked, raising an eyebrow at Harry. You have a magic gimmick? He asked. Why didn't you tell me who you were? Steve asked, sounding more curious than accusing. Chapter 59, Thor's arrival. You didn't need to know. Harry shrugged. Plus, we're not exactly best friends or anything, so I didn't really see any reason to let you know. By the way, that stick, Tony said as he pointed to Harry's wand. What is it made out of? Wood, Harry answered in a dry voice. Okay, what's in it? Tony asked patiently, as if he was speaking to it. I propose that you tell me about your tech. I'll tell you about mine. Fair's fair. How about it? It's not tech, Harry said as the wand disappeared in front of everyone. It's magic. It can't be, Tony said in a disbelieving voice. You've seen what he can do, Steve pointed to Loki, but you draw the line at him having magic. Steve asked with disbelief. Loki's an alien, Tony argued. His magic is probably just really advanced alien science, and what's to stop Harry's magic from being really advanced? Earth science that you don't know, Natasha countered. Tony was silent for several moments. Good point, Tony conceded. Everyone was silent for a minute or so before Cap finally broke the silence. I don't like it, Steve said to Tony as he gestured with his head to Loki. You mean Rock of Ages giving up so easily? Tony replied. I don't remember it being that easy, Steve frowned. This guy packs a wallop. Still, you are pretty spry for an older fellow, Tony responded. What's your thing, Pilates? What? Steve looked confused. It's like calisthenics, Tony explained. You might have missed a few things. You know, doing time as a capsicle. Wow, Harry said under his breath. Harry was the first to admit that he was no expert in making friends, but even he knew it was a bad idea to make a joke out of a guy spending 70 years or so frozen in ice. Fury didn't tell me he was calling you in, Steve said. He looked like he wanted to say something about the comment but had decided to let it slide for now. Steve, the guy is a head of a spy organization, Harry pointed out. If you talk to him, then never expect him to ever tell you the full truth, even if you just ask him what's available for lunch. Jack Frost over there is right, Tony said as he gestured to Harry. Tony paused as he noticed Harry's eyes were no longer green. Are those color-changing contacts? Between your ears, is that a brain or did you leave yours at home? Harry replied. Also, Jack Frost, did you really just call me Jack Frost? I'm still a little jet-lagged, Tony said defensively. You're welcome to supply your own nicknames if you have better suggestions. I think you would be better served. Harry was cut off by the sound of thunder. He and the others looked out through the jet windows and at the sky. Where is this coming from? Natasha said as lightning suddenly began lighting up the sky, which was incredibly odd as there was no sign of lightning or even rain on the weather forecast, plus the fact that the skies had been decently calm before now. What's the matter? Steve asked Loki, who was looking quite worried, scared of a little lightning. I'm not overly fond of what follows, Loki replied, still looking worried. What follows? Harry muttered under his breath before realization hit him. Crap baskets. Harry sighed just before something landed on top of the plane. Harry's wand quickly returned to his hand. He flicked it and the jet door opened. What are you doing? Cap asked as he and Stark put their helmets back on. Stay there, Harry ordered as he stood up. Thankful for his quick stamina recovery, he shook his head just as Thor landed. On the open jet door, he was about to walk forward and grab Loki but was blocked from touching him by a magical force field that Harry had quickly placed. He raised his hammer and looked towards the others when he saw Harry's costume. You, Thor said, recognizing his costume. Me, Harry replied, as his hood and mask briefly came back on before his hood went down and his mask disappeared once more. What are you doing here? Harry asked. I am taking Loki with me, Thor said in a firm voice. He will face Asgardian justice. Probably better than whatever we can do, but there's a slight problem with that, Harry said as he casually twirled his wand in his hand. You see, Loki, your brother, has killed a lot of people. I apologize for that, Thor said, looking pained. But and he not only stole the Tesseract but has also affected the minds of a great many people, innocent and otherwise, Harry continued, interrupting Thor. So you see, I don't care if you take him with you to Asgard. I don't care if you even execute him once you get there. But first we're going to clean up Loki's mess. You can help clean up the mess, then ask Director Fury to take him, or we can fight now. Become enemies and risk Loki escaping. What are you going to do? Harry asked as he suddenly stopped twirling his wand. Thor was silent. He looked between Loki and Harry. What happened to him? Thor asked as he gestured to Loki's face. He tried to use magic on my mind. It didn't work out for him, Harry responded. You did this? Thor asked, a small hint of disbelief in his voice. I can do worse than that, Harry replied. So, are you friend or foe? I will help you, Thor said after a short silence, but then I will take Loki back with me to Asgard. That's not my call to make, but I will recommend it to the guy in charge, Harry responded. Now sit down before you break something, Harry said as he flicked his wand and the jet door closed. Harry sat down in his own seat while Thor sat down next to Loki. Thor looked at Loki and noticed his body twitched. What's wrong with you? Thor asked Loki. He annoyed me, Harry answered on Loki's behalf, earning a glare from Loki. Chapter 60. The threat within. Soon the jet arrived. A small group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents arrived and escorted Loki away. Harry turned to the others after they had all exited the jet. He noticed Thor was looking around curiously, while Stark was unimpressed, or at least acting unimpressed. Oi Nat. Harry grabbed Nat by the arm and whispered into her ear. I'm going to go check on Padfoot. I'll be back in a minute, he said. Okay. Natasha nodded. Try and be quick though, she added. I'll try. Harry nodded before he teleported back home. Once Harry had arrived back home, Padfoot quickly ran towards him. Hey boy, Harry said as he kneeled down and hugged his furry friend. You alright? Woo. Woof woof woof. Padfoot barked. Harry was about to respond when suddenly he heard loud knocking from the door. Mr. Potter. Came the voice of his landlady. I know you are in there. What is this nonsense I am hearing on the news about you being some sort of vigilante? Today's going to be a long day. Harry sighed. Padfoot gave him a sympathetic bark. In case it's unclear, Fury said to Loki after his agents had secured him in a glass cage. If you try to escape, if you so much as scratch that glass. Fury pressed a button and the floor beneath the cage opened, allowing a lot of air to come in. Loki could feel the threatening and deafening wind enter the room. 30,000 feet, Fury said, bringing Loki's attention back to him. Straight down, in a steel trap, he added as he pressed another button and closed the floor. You get how that works. Ant. Fury gestured to Loki, then to the controls for the cage. Boot. he said, remembering how Loki had called him an ant when they had first met. It's an impressive cage. Loki smiled at Fury. But I do not think that it was built for me. Unless your architects are faster than I had originally thought. This was built for something a whole lot stronger than you, Fury replied, looking almost offended that Loki was still smiling. Oh, I've heard. Loki glanced towards the security cameras in the room. A mindless beast. Makes play he's still a man. Loki smirked before looking back towards Fury. Then we have the Iron Man. The man with a suit. Then there's your red-headed seductress, your soldier in the wrong time, and that wizard. How desperate are you? You call on such lost creatures to defend you. How desperate am I? Fury took a few steps forward. You threaten my world with war. You steal a force you can't control. You talk about peace but you kill because it's fun. You have made me very desperate. Kill because it's fun. Loki grinned. Oh no, I think you have me confused with your walking, talking, magical gun. You've seen how much destruction he causes, how many people he can kill in a single evening. He's killed more in one evening than I have in the limited time I have been here. He's a mad dog on a leash. How long do you think it will take before he turns on you? I have faith that he won't. Fury responded. Besides, as of the moment, I am not the one who has to worry about him. I see that you're still twitching. Fury smirked when he saw Loki twitch. When I escape from here, I will kill him and you. Loki growled. You think you can escape here? Fury asked, raising an eyebrow. You think I won't? Loki looked at him. I am superior to you and all of the filthy mortals on this ship. You have already lost the Tesseract to me and I know that you hate that. It burns you to come so close, to have the Tesseract, to have power, unlimited power, and for what? A warm light for all mankind to share. And then to be reminded what real power is. Well, let me know if real power wants a magazine or something. Fury rolled his eye as he walked off. He was acting unbothered, when in truth he was thinking on Loki's words, replaying them each in his head.
Another tale fades into the silence. But here, in the fantasy audiobook library, stories never sleep. Subscribe, and return when your heart seeks adventure. We'll be waiting.